overtime. Here's McDavid. Out for Nugent Hopkins. Out of the point, Bouchard. Nugent Hopkins with it. Here's McDavid. Out in front. Score! Leon Draisaitl. The Oilers win game one.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, you can't ask for anything more than the game that we saw last night. Unbelievable game one of the Stanley Cup Finals. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. So, you get game one, Edmonton finds a way to win that thing in overtime. And Alex, my biggest takeaway was, I can't wait for however many games we get of this series. I don't know who's going to win. I picked the Oilers. I picked them in 6. I think they will win in 6, but I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. We asked the question a couple of different times over the last few days. Hey, are these teams head and shoulders above everybody else in the NHL right now? After watching that game last night, the pace, the physicality, the all-world level of talent from McDavid and Draisaitl, that final goal was just chef's kiss. You can't ask for anything better. Yes, I think they are head and shoulders better than the rest of the league. How long will that last? I don't know. Panthers have a ton of offseason decisions. The cap is going to be a problem potentially for Edmonton. They're going to have to sign McDavid sooner rather than later. I have no idea how long this run lasts. But right now, these are very clearly the two best teams, and you don't always get that in a championship game. So let's appreciate it while we got it.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you have two all-world players on one side and Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, basically 75% of the hockey game means you're going to be seeing two of the best players take the ice. And that's what you had last night with Edmonton. I always feel like that first game of the Stanley Cup Final is always amplified because both sides have all of the energy. It was multiple days off, and you know they're going to bring their best into that game. But the fact that you got a goal 66 seconds into that first period, I'm like, okay, we're here for a show. Florida pushes one way, Edmonton pushes back. This is why I felt like this series is going 7 once again. I think the Panthers win, but Edmonton just was miraculous in that one for how they just pushed back after Florida took a 3-1 lead. I mean, this is what you get, though, man, when you get the rematches from teams. There's so much energy on both sides. The one thing that I was very noticing in this one is I thought there was a massive advantage on one side with goaltending. That was not the case. Both goaltenders were superb in that game. Skinner laid a dud in that second Sam Bennett goal, but then locked in the rest of the way. So I think we're in for another really, really memorable series. I still think Edmonton is going to be the losers in this series, though.
Panthers 31-1 after last night when leading after the first or second period in the playoffs under Paul Maurice. If they lead at any point after either the first or the second period, they go into an intermission with a lead, basically. They win under Paul Maurice in the postseason until last night. It's the first time they have lost under Paul Maurice in the playoffs while having a lead at one of the intermissions. Just an amazing job by Edmonton to be able to come back in that one.
Some really undisciplined hockey, too, by the way, for a Stanley Cup final. Like, what was it? There were 3 penalties called in, 66 seconds or something.
Like a 4-on-3, which I don't remember last time I saw that.
Like, what is happening here? And then, of course, you get that delay of game, puck over the glass in overtime. Like, you can't make those types of mistakes.
That was brutal.
You cannot make those types of mistakes in the Stanley Cup final, especially in overtime.
Brutal mistakes there. Did you like the challenge, by the way? It didn't end up costing them. They won the game.
The Oilers goal?
Yeah.
I thought it was a dumb challenge.
You can't challenge goalie interference. Unless it is blatant, you cannot challenge goaltender interference.
The first camera angles, the way it looked, it was, it was goalie interference. But then they show, the second camera angle. It's like, okay, what are we challenging here? Because this is clearly accidental contact from the defenseman forces him into there. And to your point, they end up winning that game. Dude, that game, you had all the energy behind you. Game 1, Stanley Cup Final, you score whatever it is, 90 seconds into that game. Oh, my gosh, Edmonton is rocking. And then you give up a goal, and then you take a bad penalty because your coach has a bad challenge, and the game turned on its head. But credit to the Oilers, they did come back.
And I know what they were doing there because, if they do challenge and it's successful, then you're putting your team up 2-0 in the first period, and that's exactly the recipe you want for the first home game of a playoff series. And look, your penalty kill has been fine in the playoffs.
You're up 1-0.
You're up 1-0, but the goal that they challenged would have made it 2-0.
No.
What? No.
No, Edmonton was up 1-0, and Florida challenged.
Oh, I thought
Florida scored, Edmond challenged.
Florida.
It would have been 1-0.
Yeah, it would have been 1-0.
Yeah,
there.
that was the game tying goal. It was 1-0. That was the game tying goal. They challenge. It doesn't go their way.
But you
put them on the power.
On the power play because of it, and then they very quickly score that second goal to go up 2-1.
Yeah, I flubbed that one there. But they also their penalty kill.
Like, you don't get awarded a goal for a win on a challenge.
Awesome if he did.
It would be a
you should
change.
Considering how hard it is to challenge goal interference, you get it right. You should
also
get a goal.
in this Stanley Cup Final, if you give the other team a power play, you're kind of just rewarding them a goal. But Edmonton, the reason you don't challenge there is your penalty kill has been awful in the playoffs. I mean, they're 65% of the playoffs right now in the penalty kill. Like, you cannot put that power play on the ice against that penalty kill in that type of a game. So, yeah, I don't like challenges on goalie interference unless it is clear that was not a goal.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can check us out on YouTube, as always, at youtube.com/101ESPN STL as well. Sharon's Ladue Pool Boy says, that rule has got to go. 636 says, the puck over the glass penalty needs to be removed from the game. First, my point on the challenge, I think that call was going to stick with it, whichever way they called it on the ice. If it was called goalie interference on the ice, I'm not sure you can overturn that. If it's not, I don't think you can overturn it that way either. It was too close either way. I don't think you can challenge in those scenarios. As for the puck over the glass penalty, I disagree. It's discipline, man. If you can't keep the puck down to the point where it goes over the glass, that's on you.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's a really frustrating penalty if your team is the one that takes it. But
because you know what happens if you take that penalty out of the game? Then on penalty kills, all teams are doing is just lobbing the puck down the ice. You're just lobbing it. Who cares if it goes out of play? Now there's actually strategy into it to where it's like, nope, I'm going to either have to skate this out or you're going to have to be precise in terms of rimming it around the board. I think it creates more excitement when you put that penalty in the game.
Totally agree with you. I also think that in overtime, 3-on-3, not last night obviously, but in 3-on-3 overtime, you shouldn't be able to take it all the way back into your own zone.
I totally agree.
Once you cross either the red or the blue line, you got to stay above that. And until then, you can't go back into your own zone. So.
Just to get rid of the 3-on-3 altogether.
I like 3-on-3. I think it's fine. I've got no issues with it other than the way that it becomes. It ends up being played really slow because teams. Yeah. I mean, it's smart, right? It's smart for NBA players to jack up a bunch of threes. Doesn't mean that it's the best brand of basketball for us to watch.
I just think at least for me, I always like the 3-on-3 in the regular season until you get to the playoffs and you see 5-on-5 for an extended period of time. And it's like, yep. That's what hockey should feel like. Now, I know it's amplified there. There's a lot more at stake than a regular season game. I just don't like 3-on-3, and I don't like shootouts.
Oh, I'm in.
So how would you recommend they finish out a game?
5-on-5.
So you just are cool with them playing games forever?
I mean,
because it might take a long time at 5-on-5 to finish out a game.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
82 games, I'm good. Let's get these over with.
I'm cool with saying a game ends in a
5-on-5.
tie, right? That way you can kind of have a better point system.
Absolutely
I hate ties too.
What?
I just keep it 5-on-5.
What the hell's wrong with you?
5-on-5.
We're going to have a winner and a loser. This is America.
No.
What?
Well, he's trying to make it European.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
I mean, you're trying to make it soccer, man, and
the world's most popular sport. All I'm saying.
Can we talk about the Blues that were on display last night? The former and
Sam
potentially
Bennett.
future Blues that were on display last night?
Sure.
Hot damn, Kasperi Kapanen. That was the best game that I've seen by him in 5 years. He had a couple of those with the Blues, couple of good nights with them. I didn't know he had that in him, though. He was hitting everything that moved. He's playing legit top 6 minutes right now for the Edmonton Oilers. What a game. What a game by Kasperi Kapanen. That move that he had on the breakaway to split the two defenders, I mean, just remarkable. And then on the other side of things, I didn't know Niko Mikkola had this in him. I know we talked about this with Kerber the other day. And listen, Mikkola's been really good basically since the Florida Panthers acquired him. So I'm not saying I didn't know he had what he did last night. I didn't know he could legitimately become a top 4 defenseman in the league. I thought he was probably going to be best served long-term as a third pair defenseman on a championship caliber team. Dude, he is a legit top 4 guy. And if he was on the Blues right now, if he could play offhand on the right side, that's exactly the type of player that I think the Blues are missing right now.
Yeah. And I mean, we didn't even mention Jake Wallman, too, who's performing well for Edmonton. By
the way, one of the worst trades of all time was the Detroit Red Wings giving up I think, second-round pick, was it? with him to dump the salary
to get to San Jose. Yeah, well, that's the Yzer plan. That's called panic mode when the Yzer plan's not working out. I mean, some of these guys, like, for me, Jake Wallman and Nico Mikkola were never going to be this for the Blues. Like, I always go back to Vince Dunn when he was with the Seattle Kraken that first year where I think he earned Norris Trophy votes, and he had an article, or they put an article out about him where he says, like, look, I needed to have that move from St. Louis to Seattle to kind of have a realization I need to change the way that I prep about the game. Sometimes guys just don't pan out to be that way. And I think the Blues were hoping Mikkola could become a top 4 pair defenseman with them. They were pairing him with Colton Parayko a lot, and it just was never coming into it. But now he's working really well with Florida. The Kapanen one, to me, man, like, I go back to what Kapanen was for the Blues when they got him off of waivers from Pittsburgh. And, like, he was a third-line player that was creating offense, but he was physical. But then that following year, the year that they waived him, or no, it was 2 years later that they waived him, it felt like the following year and a half, he just didn't have a role. One day he was a middle six guy that they wanted goals from. One day he was a fourth liner that they wanted to be physical from. And typically when you give guys a role but not tell them what you want from them, you get what Kapanen was for the Blues. He got to Edmonton, and the moment he got to Edmonton, we want you to be a physical presence in our bottom six. And he has done that remarkably, and I think it's part of the reason why Edmonton's having a lot of success.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat, eggplant emoji says, who did the Blues get in the trade for Mikkola? They ended up getting a first-round pick, which became Theo Lindstein, a third-round pick, Hunter Skinner, and then forward Sammy Blais. That included Vladimir Tarasenko. It was Mikkola and Tarasenko going to the Rangers, but the big draw there was the first-round pick, and they got Theo Lindstein with that pick.
And JR said that on the Last Minute Blues podcast with us yesterday, that was the kicker to get the first-round pick, because Vladdy wasn't getting you a first-round pick. The Rangers needed a defenseman, and they wanted Vladdy, and that's how you got that first-round pick, which was the whole motive at that trade deadline, get as many first-round picks as possible.
And the idea was you could flip those picks, right? Nobody believed, even going into draft day, you guys were there
in
that
Nashville.
year.
T-Bone was on Doug Armstrong watch.
Nobody believed that Doug Armstrong was going to make 3 selections in the first round.
Yeah.
They all thought he's going to trade these picks for a rosterable player, and that trade just never materialized, so he ended up with 3 first-round picks, and that's what he got. But the idea at the time was this Mikkola deal, including Vladimir Tarasenko, will acquire some kind of a veteran player for the Blues. It just never ended up coming out that way.
Which one is going to stick in your craw more if they win? Kapanen or Mikkola?
Neither. I don't care.
Yeah, wow. I don't think either would bother me.
Aggressive.
Maybe that's the wrong way to phrase it. I'll be happy for either of them. It does not.
So no trade you look at and be like, how you screwed that one up?
Definitely not.
No.
Well, not really a trade. Kapanen was claimed off waivers.
Yeah, neither of those. Kapanen's time had to run through. Like, it was time to try something different. Matthew Joseph, what's his face? Alexander Texier.
What's his face? That's when you know it works out well.
I mean, listen, have they gone great? No, but it was time to try something new with those spots on the roster. I'm happy for him that he's gone elsewhere and found what appears to be a pretty good home for him. The Mikkola thing sucks, but at the time, I thought it was the right call for the Blues to go about it and try something new on the blue line.
And also,
they
weren't going to resign him.
Yeah, Wallman was a forward here that just never panned out to be defenseman. I also always remind people, like, careful on the whole Kapanen would have been great for the Blues. He's also playing on a wing with Leon Draisaitl right now.
Kapanen wasn't even great with the Oilers, to be clear here. This season, in 57 games, he had 8 points, and it was a minus 16, or 13 points and a minus 16.
They didn't play him a lot in the regular season.
Yeah, so, like, he's having a really nice postseason. And full kudos to him. I'm happy for him, man. But no, I don't feel like the Blues messed up there.
Yeah, they're lucky they got what's-his-face. It's a great move by them.
You still think Florida's winning?
Yeah. I think it's Florida in 7.
You still think Oilers are winning?
I still think Oilers in 6.
I think if they don't make that puck over the glass in overtime, that's going to double overtime, and I still think Florida probably comes out on top.
I'll say this. Watching the Oilers last night, and maybe this is just because I'm more of a casual hockey fan when it comes outside of St. Louis, dude, I've always viewed the Oilers as this just fast transition team, and don't get me wrong, they are that. Man, they play a physical brand of hockey.
I thought they were the more physical team last night.
They had to be.
It is it's surprising to me. Like, I just undersold what the Oilers are and how much they play playoff hockey while playing it at just an elite speed.
Well, think of the acquisitions that they got this year at the deadline. They got Kapanen off of waivers, but they go get Trent Frederick. You add in Jake Wallman, who I know he's not a physical specimen, but like they emphasize the bottom of their pairing on defense, and they emphasize the bottom of their line combinations on the forward side, because that's what hurt them last year in terms of depth, not being able to match up well with Florida once you get to third and fourth lines.
Colorado did.
Yeah.
Remember when they won their cup? They did the exact same thing. They did it all like at the deadline. They completely reconstructed their bottom six forwards. That was when they got Lehkonen as a part of that trade deadline. It's worked out really well for Edmonton as well. I was thinking about this last night. Can you imagine this team if they still had Holloway and Broberg?
Oh.
You want to talk about like head and shoulders above the league and then retaining that role as head and shoulders above the league? That spot that Kapanen was in last night, imagine Holloway in that spot.
Yeah, that's the spot he was on last year in the playoffs, playing with Leon Draisaitl. And like Jake Wallman is great. Philip Broberg was playing Jake Wallman's role last year for the Edmonton Oilers.
You could do a little bit of damage with those two guys.
They could win the Stanley Cup, and I still will say Stan Bowman screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah,
you messed it up.
Flags fly forever.
You're absolutely right.
It's all good. Coming up in 15 minutes, is Sam Bennett going to be seen as a landmine coming off of this playoff run he's on? Every time that I watch the Florida Panthers, he's either scoring a goal, making a crazy assist, getting involved in the physicality, or maybe all of the above. And he did all of that once again last night. We'll talk about Sam Bennett in 15 minutes. We just have to do it. But next, Ollie was in a no-win proposition with Andre Pallante the other night. I heard the fast lane say something that really stuck in my craw. We got to address it next year on 101 ESPN. Been to Santa Claus, Indiana?
I have.
Yeah.
Holiday World. Here's the perks of Holiday World. Free refreshments.
Yeah.
Was this like
free parking,
childhood
right?
thing that you guys just did?
No, I didn't go until, God, I would probably...
I didn't know.
5 or 6 years ago?
When I was a kid growing up, we did a couple of field trips. We did one to the state capitol in Jefferson City, and we did another one out here to St. Louis for a day. So it's like a 4-hour drive. I think Indiana's roughly
Yeah, it's about a 4-hour drive to
So I
Santa
wasn't
Claus.
sure if that was something that you guys did as well.
Nope.
It is for me because it was closer when I grew up.
Oh, okay.
Remember,
We
'cause
did
I'm
it-
from the great town of Volney, Illinois.
Home of the White Squirrels.
That's right. There's a beautiful billboard promoting the town when you're going across into Illinois on 64.
I saw them mention Godfrey on the news yesterday, and I thought about you.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So anytime I see Olney and Godfrey, I know exactly one person that
I
is
don't know what
associated with
Godfrey's
either
known
of those
for.
two.
Let's find out.
Outside the Harvard of the Midwest, Lewis and Clark Community College.
That's what Google's
Shout
for.
out T-Bone
Shout
and Mike Ryder.
Yeah.
Both.
Parks and Recreation. That's what it's known for. Not the show.
Oh.
They're Parks and Recreation.
That would have been amazing if the show
That
was
would have been
actually
amazing.
based
But nope,
in Godfrey, Illinois.
They're just known for their parks and actual recreation.
All right, so yesterday I was listening to the Fast Lane, and listen, I'm not mad about any of this, but I do. It's stuck in my craw a little bit. That
I'm not mad, but kind
not
of grinded
mad.
my gears.
I'm
just
trying to think
disappointed.
of the right way to frame this because I don't want to make it seem as though like what they said was wrong. I personally disagree with it, right? And like baseball decisions, that's what it's here for. Is one person can see it one way, another person can see it another way. That's part of the fun of like managing along with the game. It's not all 100% correct, 0% wrong. It's mostly 50-50 calls. I think Ollie was in a no-win position the other day with Andre Pallante. And we didn't spend a whole lot of time on this because I didn't really make much of it at the time. But the Fast Lane did, and so I did want to respond with our own thoughts on the matter. Here's Kerry Davis talking about Ollie not pulling Andre Pallante early enough in the game.
At what point did you feel like potentially, maybe you go get him? Maybe after the first, maybe after the home run and then the single, or maybe after the second single. Definitely after the third single before you face Bobby Witt Jr. I think if there was, when people critique Ollie, I think this would be an opportunity for them to critique him because that to me, you allow 5 hits and then the fifth guy that gets the hit and again, you're still up by so much. You're up by 4 runs and now you're up by 2 runs after Bobby Witt singles in 2 of those guys. But I think that that's a critical point where people look at that and say, these are the things that frustrate us as viewers of our Cardinals because 4 hits in a row, you're kind of thinking, man, this guy, they got him timed up pretty well. It's not damaging, but they're just moving guys along. Single, moving guys down the line, and finally they come in and score. So for me, that was a situation when fans do critique Ollie Marmol, I think that those are the moments that they point out and say, this is what I'm referring to, and this is why they become frustrated.
I think he's right. That is what people refer to, is situations like that when critiquing Ollie Marmol. I just think it was an unfair spot to be overly critical of Ollie in. I don't think you lost that game because of Ollie Marmol. I think you lost that game because your pitching didn't execute after Andre Pallante left the game. When Andre Pallante left, you were up 7-5. Steven Matz enters the game and then gives up a double, a single, boom, you're down 8-7. Like that's not necessarily on Ollie Marmol in that spot, in my opinion. Alex, there's context that's really important here. The Cardinals were in game 1 of a stretch where they were expected to play 13 games in 13 days. They still will, just in a different way now that you have the doubleheader today. You have to be thinking about the way that you're going to manage your bullpen in that stretch. It's not just managing for today. It's also managing for tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. It's frustrating, but that's the reality. If that was a playoff game, I would be criticizing Ollie Marmol heavily for not getting Andre Pallante out of the game. But in that situation that he was talking about, the Isbell single prior to India and Witt, I would not have taken him out for India, by the way, because he's got the reverse splits. That's a spot where you want Andre Pallante to be in that game. If you're putting him into that spot, you are now taking him out with 60 pitches thrown in the game, with 13 games and 13 days. Is that really the way that you would want Ollie Marmol to handle that? I would say no. I think that is the exact scenario where you want him to stick with his starter. He had just retired the previous 13 batters, gives up the home run, and then it's single. I'm now supposed to pull him? I'm not going to do that there. I think they got him out at the right spot. They go to Steven Matz, get him against some lefties. It didn't work out. Take your shot there, and boom, you failed.
I understand what Kerry's saying, too, because, like, you had already seen Bobby Witt Jr., 3 times, and he has just found a way to do damage against you. And so, like,
that was the third
one. So you're putting him in there in that position where he'd already given up a home run. He'd given up big hits to Bobby Witt Jr. It's like, you really want to see this for the third time? But to me, you're absolutely right. Because of how many games you're playing in the next 13 days, you can't pull him there. You need to get more innings out of Andre Pallante. And frankly, you have to have some confidence in a guy that, you know what, the bases are loaded in that position, and maybe you could get a ground ball from Bobby Witt Jr. because Andre Pallante is a ground ball type of pitcher. And I mean, he's induced 5 double plays already this season. You take that shot there. When that hit happened, they made the right move. It's like, okay, this game's getting out of hand. We've got to go to our bullpen. The problem, and I said this yesterday, the problem for me was your bullpen did not stop the snowball. The snowball started with Andre Pallante, and yes, Ollie kept him in there, but you had to keep him in there, and you hope your pitcher can work you out of that sticky situation. He doesn't. You go to your bullpen, one of your most confident pitchers in Steven Matz, and that snowball just rolls right over him because you give up that hit to Pescatino where that's the lefty you want in that position, and you don't get the stop. That's where the game got out of hand. So I can understand if people have frustration. To me, that was the right move of keeping him in there because you need your pitchers to give you innings right now.
Somebody said, do we win if they end up taking him out there? I thought wins is what you need in order to succeed. They might. I don't know. That's the thing. We don't have any evidence of what could have happened if you go to a bullpen arm there. Another part of this is like, man, you had a righty lane there, so you're taking a Pallante out. You're probably putting in Matz no matter what. That's not a spot where I want Matz in the game either. You know, like you don't have a great option in your bullpen as the long reliever for a right-handed lane. Who would have been the option?
Yeah, who's the guy you want to go to? Bobby Witt Jr. there.
I mean, it's probably Leahy because he can eat.
You're not
an
bringing
inning
him
or
in
two.
the 5th inning.
I mean, you could.
Not in a leverage spot. I bet you he hasn't entered in the 5th inning in a single game this year.
Also, Leahy hasn't given you the best vibes that can get you out of that.
I want to point out we're arguing something that I'm on your guys' side. But again, like at that point when the game starts to snowball, at the beginning, no.
It was 7-2. What they're saying is bring him in at 7-2. The game had not spiraled out of control.
Yeah, I don't know if you have that righty then. I mean, you're just turning to, Swanson probably. Like you don't have somebody that you turn to. When it became high leverage, sure, that's what I was saying. I thought that's what you're saying. When it becomes more of a high leverage where it is 7-7, snowball's already started.
But that's already when Steven Matz is in the game.
Yeah, I know.
That spot did not take place until you eventually get to a lefty in Pascantino. And in that spot, yes, you want to go to Steven Matz, but what they're talking about is that righty lane, India, Witt, Garcia. For that spot, because Kerry specifically said, take him out 2 batters earlier. That's India, Witt. Those are the 2 guys that Pallante saw that you did not, the 2 guys that you didn't want him to see that he did end up going up against. You don't have the righty to go in that spot. You don't. Graceffo could have been that guy if he had been effective while he was up at the big league level, but he wasn't, so he was sent back down. You don't have a player for that spot right now on your roster. And you could say maybe that's a roster deficiency. A lot of times, though, like if you're trying to go to a long reliever in the 5th inning for a righty lane, like you're already in a pretty rough spot. And that's ultimately what happened to the Cardinals. They're up 7-3. I don't really know what you wanted Ollie Marmol to do in that spot. If it's a playoff game, I'm arguing very differently, and they should have had a different roster construction for those situations. But it's not a playoff game. Again, you manage every game like it's the playoffs in a 162-game season.
Again, to me, I feel like that game, the real talking point is the fact that you couldn't make the stop with Steven Matz there. Like you got Steven Matz in the ideal situation against the ideal hitter, and he gave up a double that resulted from a 2-run lead to a tie baseball game. And that was the difference in this one. The offense put you in a position to succeed, and your pitching wasn't able to get you through it. But if Ollie goes into his bullpen early, 2 hitters earlier, like we mentioned with Jonathan India, man, your team is set up for disaster over the next 5 days for how many baseball games you're playing.
And maybe some people would say, well, you could have planned on having an off day tomorrow because the forecast did not look good. You can't operate.
You can't do that.
Because there is still the chance that it doesn't end up raining, right? It's not like the weather is perfect. And if you play that game yesterday because maybe that storm doesn't come through, then you're really stuck in a bind because now you were planning on having a quote-unquote off day when it never occurs, and then you're just burning bullpen arms, and now you want to talk about a snowball, try burning through your bullpen arms really quickly in 13 games in 13 days.
That's the other thing to me on this. Okay, so let's say he did what Kerry is suggesting here. And I'm just using Kerry's thoughts on this because he's the one that said it on the radio. He is not alone in this regard at all. I think he is representing a pretty decent segment of the fan base. I mean, we're seeing it right now on the text line that agrees entirely with Kerry Davis. And so, like, I'm just trying to present the alternative view, my personal view on this. Let's say he went with that. He brings in the reliever earlier. And then either today or tomorrow, they have to go to their bullpen early again. We just saw Libby not have a great start in the last one. Miles Michaelis is always prone to that possibility because he is such a pitch-to-contact guy. And now the bullpen's fried. Going into the weekend against the LA Dodgers when you're bringing up Michael McGreevy, who I know everybody's excited about, but, dude, I have no idea how that start's going to go either. So your bullpen's fried. You've got a spot start for Michael McGreevy, and now we're probably seeing people be critical of Ollie Marmol for pulling his starter after 60 pitches against the Royals in game, 60 of the regular season when he's trying to manage like it's the postseason, right? That becomes the criticism is, Ollie's managing too scared. Leave your starter in. He was at 60 pitches. He had just retired 13 in a row. Bullpen's now fried. Look at what you've done to set us up for failure going into the weekend. It was a no-win proposition there.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the guys that he brought into the game didn't get the job done. Steven Matz has been really good this season in those exact situations. The last couple of times he's come into the game, it's looked bad. You didn't execute. Your pitching gave up 10 runs in the game. You lost the game because of that. You didn't lose the game because of any managerial decision one way or the other by Ollie Marmol. I'm sorry, that's just personally the way that I view it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well. I think you handled that the best way you could handle that. At some point, the players got to perform. Pallante wasn't able to get out of that jam, nor was Steven Matz. And those are two guys. Pallante maybe not so much, but Steven Matz has been one of your best relievers out of the bullpen in terms of coming in high-leverage situations and getting you through it, and he gave up the lead. And to me, that's what dictated the outcome of that game, not Andre Pallante giving up the 5 runs.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. YouTube chat is available for you, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Speaking of those roster decisions, I thought T-Bone made a really good argument to us earlier today, Alex, in the office about why the Cardinals should reshape this roster. He'll get into that coming up at 12 o'clock, but coming up next, Sam Bennett just continues doing unbelievable things this postseason. Is he going to be a landmine, or is this just who he is? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals played 2 today as they've got a doubleheader with the Kansas City Royals. Game 1 will start at 12:45. Miles Michaelis will be on the bump for St. Louis. And then in Game 2, 6:45 will be first pitch. Matthew Liberatore will get the start for St. Louis. Cole Reagans will start in that one for the Royals. Last night, Oilers won Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals in overtime. And tonight, here on 101 ESPN, you can hear Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. Well, pregame coverage starting at 6:30 with tip-off at 7. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. CMilano.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Sam Bennett just keeps doing amazing things in the playoffs. He once again, was it 2 goals last night, Alex?
Yep.
2?
He's got 12 in the playoffs right now.
Oh, my God. He scored like 15 in the regular season.
Most in franchise history for the Florida Panthers in the playoffs. 12 total goals.
On the plus side, it's just a walk year. He's getting ready to head into free agency.
Yeah, that doesn't concern anybody.
I'm sure that doesn't hurt at all. Sam Bennett this year, by the way, 25 goals for him in 76 games. Now he's done this in what, like 20? It's 15 goals in 20 games.
Yeah.
He scored
18, actually.
Oh, my God. He scored 16 goals 2 years ago during the regular season.
Yeah.
What we're seeing right now is not necessarily a representative of who Sam Bennett is during the regular season. And Alex, I don't know if that matters. I think there will be teams that look at this and say, that's exactly what we're missing. And we will pay whatever it takes to get that man on our team because, oh my God, we need those goals in the playoffs.
Oh my God.
Is this going to be a landmine contract?
Yes.
Is that...
Yes, the phrase that
every time I watch him, I leave saying to myself, I want him.
Yep.
I'll pay him $10 million.
You know how Doug has the inner
then I
circle?
go back to the regular season. I'm like, do I want him? I don't know.
You know how Doug has the inner circle? Like anybody in that inner circle, when any general manager says, what about Sam Bennett, should yell, it's a trap! Look, Sam Bennett...
I watched that the other night.
Yeah? Did you? What'd you think?
It's good.
There you go. See? BK, ladies and
From
gentlemen.
Star Wars. I never understood the reference. Now I do.
Sam Bennett is a great player. I'm not taking any of that away from him. Here's why it's a trap, though. You're paying Sam Bennett because he's a playoff performer. That's the narrative around this guy. Otherwise, we're talking about a dude who has surpassed 50 points once in his career. Would you sign a guy for 50 points a season, not even, for $10 million?
No.
You signed the guy because I like the hesitation there. It really brought the intensity with it. You signed the guy because you're like, yeah, but look, he has scored 19 playoff goals in his last 2 playoff series.
I hear you.
Guess what, BK? Playoff performers don't matter if you don't make the playoffs.
But the Blues are expected to.
They are. But what happens when you pay a guy $10 million for one spot? The Blues can't even afford to pay him $10 million. But look at Puckpedia in terms of the salary cap and the money that's available to a lot of these teams. There's a lot of teams that have $20 million in cap space. But there's a lot of teams that have 5, 6, 7, 8 roster positions to be filled. When you sign Sam Bennett to a lot of dollars, AAV, you're doing it because you're saying this guy sets us over the top to get us to the playoffs. But does he? Because he's only going to give you 70 games, 20 to 25 goals, and 50 points. And remember, all of these numbers that he's putting up right now, he's playing a line with Matthew Tkachuk and Carter Verhaeghe.
Somebody on the text line actually brought up a really good point. 314-399-9646 is the Air Coverage Service text line. It's BK's Fanny Pack. Love the name. Said, guys, this is 2018-2019 Jaden Schwartz. If you remember, Jaden Schwartz back in 2018-19 had 12 goals and 20 points. He was a +9 for the Blues, including 10 even strength goals in 26 playoff games. So this is even more impressive somehow than what Jaden Schwartz was able to do. But the regular season is pretty darn similar in terms of the production between what Schwartz was and what Sam Bennett has been in his career. So the comp is not all that bad. It's similar ages when they ended up going to different teams. Schwartz goes to Seattle, becomes, a guy that has injury issues. Sound familiar with Sam Bennett, but otherwise has been, a 40 to 50 point producer since going to Seattle. And I think that is the concern. By the way, Seattle not doing a whole lot of playoff success because they're not getting to the playoffs with Jaden Schwartz. That's the concern with Sam Bennett. There's also the Justin Williams angle of this as well, where it's like, hey, the guy might not be the greatest regular season performer, but if you are a team that's getting to the playoffs regularly, this is somebody you want on your team. Justin Williams had one great regular season where he had 75 points, but otherwise was like a 50-point producer during the regular season.
Justin Williams also never made more than $5 million in his career.
Different cap.
Yes, it was, but I mean, $4.5 million in 2018, 2019 with the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, yes, you want guys who are playoff performers on your roster, but they're guys that are where Sam Bennett's at right now, where he's making $4 or $5 million and he's playing in an ideal situation. The problem becomes when you signed that guy to an $8 or a $9 million contract and he becomes the identity of a team that should get you to the playoffs. Like if we're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs going out there and giving him $9 million, it might be a good spot for him to be in because they've got Austin Matthews and Nylander and all of these players who will perform. But the problem is like what Seattle did with Chandler Stevenson, where they said, we need a number 2 center, and this is the only guy that matches and he's available to us. And Chandler Stevenson was a playoff performer. Let's go give him the money. And he has not been what they hoped for. Why? Because the line mates that Chandler Stevenson was playing with was also creating the success he was having. And I'm not saying Bennett's not doing this, because Bennett goes to the dirty areas and he gets the goals. He gets the rebounds. That's what you want.
I mean, last night he scored a goal off the rush.
He did.
That was sexy.
Go back. It was sexy.
I mean, let's be honest.
But go back and watch that replay of how that play started. Matthew Tkachuk defends off 2 players with the puck on his stick, makes a backhanded pass to Carter Verhaeghe, and Verhaeghe makes the outlet pass with a 2-on-1.
I think the line, I want to say this up front. I'm on your side, and I know that this is a bad idea. And when we get done with the playoffs and we have like a 2-week stretch prior to July 1st, I will be able to have a sober mind on this and say to myself, this is a bad idea. You should not do this. It's a trap.
He gets that now.
Yes. I can't do that right now because I'm watching him, Alex, and I am seduced by what is taking place on the ice.
Keep it calm over there, man.
Whoa.
This guy is amazing, dude. And like, I hear what you're saying about him being on the line with Tkachuk and Verhaeghe. Dude, Tkachuk right now, and I do not say this to diss who Tkachuk is. That guy is unbelievable, one of the best players in the league. He is not anywhere close to 100%. I think we can all see that watching him on the ice right now. Do I think he could be similar, what he did this postseason, not last year, with Holloway and Kyrou? Maybe. I mean, I think Holloway is that good, dude. And that second line, I think, could be the type of line that really succeeds in a playoff series. And so right now, as I'm in my stupid mind and I'm watching this series again, I can't help but say to myself, like, man, 7 years, $8 million per. I would not do 9+. Like, that stuff's crazy. I'm not sure that you're going to have to.
Yeah.
If you tell me, hey, he would sign for basically the same deal as what you just got Thomas and Kyrou to sign over the last couple of years, dude, I would seriously consider it. I can't tell you I wouldn't.
I understand that, but look at how people react to Kyrou season when he puts up 37 goals and they say, you're an $8 million player.
Look at the way that they responded this year to Dylan Holloway's season because of the style. The style plays into this, man. Kyrou having no physicality in his game is a big part.
But does the style matter if he only scores 20 goals for you?
Jaden Schwartz was beloved in this city. Beloved. Now, he wasn't making $8 million.
Yeah, he wasn't the main guy.
At the time, he was making, I think it was like 5.5, maybe 6.
Well, and up until that Stanley Cup championship, though, there were a lot of people that were frustrated with guys like Schwartz and Tarasenko because they were supposed to be.
Tarasenko.
I think they were frustrated with the core because the core wasn't getting the job done, and they wanted guys who can put up goals. I'm with you. I think
he would be beloved here.
I think he'd be beloved early on, and I think if you get a 20-goal season from him and where the team gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs, then you're going, well, you're supposed to be a playoff performer and you didn't score. You got 20 goals for us in the season. Sure, you were physical, but you got to do more. And it's only because of what he's going to get paid. If we're talking about a guy who's making $6.5 million, I think people are loving this guy.
What about if he makes what Thomas and Kyrie.
I think you're complaining because he's a 25 goal scorer making $8 million.
T-Bone, what do you think?
I think they'd be complaining because
think?
because once you, right or wrong, once you are the top dog in the salary, you are the guy that is expected to do more in the regular season.
I think I don't know, man, because like Booch, Thomas, Kyrie, Bennett, probably Holloway, and my guess is Broberg would all probably be in that same salary range. Now, there's a question to be had of can you have that many $8 million players on your roster and still fill it out the way that the Blues want to? I don't know. That becomes really difficult, but it's hard not to get excited about it as you're watching right now, man. It's really hard.
Every time I see him score a goal, you hear the money going cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And I'm thinking, God, somebody is going to pay so much money for a postseason where he put up 14 goals and potentially wins a Stanley Cup. And then when he signs, it's going to be, dude, you're supposed to be helping us win a Stanley Cup. And we didn't even make the playoffs because we paid you this amount of money.
Yeah, I do think it's worth noting. Last year, had 14 points in 19 games. The year before that, had 15 points in 20 games in the postseason. Like, this is not an outlier performance by him. It is on the goal side of things. The shooting percentage is way up, like all of that. But he has 24 goals in his last 57 postseason games. 47 points in those 57 games. He's a +6. That is a great playoff performer. True playoff performer through and through. Now, he stinks on the dot, but that's a different conversation for a different day. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions and answers is coming up next.
It's a trap.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. I think my dream on the Anthony Richardson becoming something more than just the YOLO ball thrower that Alex has called him, it's probably dead. Steichen says, quote, I hope Anthony Richardson can come back at some point, end quote, during training camp. Has no timeline for him. Why? Because of the same AC joint issue that he had last year in his shoulder. He's got a throwing shoulder issue, and as we know from baseball, that is the worst thing that you can possibly have. So not great for Anthony Richardson. It might just never happen for him in Indy or potentially elsewhere.
Cam Newton, I've heard.
From the 314th, let's get to this one. Guys, with Burns out for the Diamondbacks, they might sell. Is Gallen a viable option for the Cardinals, struggling this year, but we know what he could do. Is that somebody you would target? Gallen is a free agent after this season, so he would be an expiring deal. Is that somebody that you'd be interested in, T-Bone?
I don't want him. He's got... You think Fetty's got a walk problem? Go watch Zach Gallen. Gallen's got an even worse walk problem this year, and that's what's leading to his numbers being bad. And I don't know if you can fix that. Also, because of the stuff he has said publicly in the past about being critical of the Cardinals organization for how they handled him when he was a minor leaguer, makes me wonder if there's some bad blood that if you're Mo, you don't want to bring back here. I would much rather have Merrill Kelly than I'd go after Zach Gallen.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 618. Guys, I really want to hear more about Star Wars from BK. The mini Wookiees are the cutest things I've ever seen.
What? That's not what they're called. Oh, that was frustrating.
The mini Wookiees.
Talking about the Ewoks.
I was going to say the Ewok.
Yeah, the
I know.
Ewoks.
Yeah, not the
They're the
Wookiees.
cutest things I've ever seen.
Didn't we say that too? Didn't we tell him? Or maybe it was Bradford. Maybe it was Bradford was the one that said you're going to enjoy those.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah.
I loved them. The spoiler alert, the fight between Luke and Darth Vader at the very end of episode 6.
I don't think you have to spoiler something that was in the 80s.
Well, it would have been a spoiler for me. I think
That's on you, man.
70s? When did Star Wars episode 6 officially come out?
I think it was 83.
I was going to say, that was early 80s.
So, spoiler alert, 45 years later. That was a great scene. And the way that they built it up and then the way that it came to a conclusion.
I don't think that's a spoiler alert. You just said it was a great scene, man.
Were you surprised by...
He killed Vader. But Vader,
Damn it!
You see his face at the end, and then he tells him, like, you were right about me. It was just beautiful.
Did you...
Absolutely perfect.
What'd you think of that line of Luke?
I am your
Finished.
father.
Yeah, I mean, it was good.
I was gonna see if
I
you
knew
finished.
that one. That one I was familiar with.
With that one you've heard before.
Yeah, I've heard that once or twice. What were you about to ask?
Yeah,
Steve?
were you-
That was I was going to ask. Were you surprised by that? Like, did you not know about that famous moment in movie history at all?
I'm familiar.
One of the most famous lines ever in movies, but that's fine. Not
Never
a big
seen
deal.
The Godfather either, but I'm familiar with the make an offer you can't
How are
refuse
you an
situation.
Italian and have never seen The Godfather?
I don't know. I've also never seen
Goodfellas?
never seen Goodfellas or
I've never
Scarface.
seen either of those
Never seen
either.
Scarface.
Scarface?
Either.
I haven't seen that either.
That's not Italian. That's more like
I know mobster
Cubana.
movies though.
Yes.
You know,
What about Casino? You ever seen Casino?
No.
Jesus.
I have seen Rounders, not an Italian movie necessarily.
I was
but
going to say, none of these are falling into the same category.
Rounders was great. I've seen more TV show series than I have a lot of like the older movies.
Sit down
I
and
need to
watch
get-
movies. This is
I've
like
seen
when I try and
Italian
have...
Job. That's pretty good.
I've seen the Italian Job, yes.
This is like trying to have a conversation with Grant Francis about movies when we're doing Blues games. He doesn't see any films. I'm like, God, I can't even make references with you, Grant.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. 618 says Darth Vader has the best story arc and is the best character in the history of fiction. Whew, bold take there. Somebody said, have you seen The Sopranos? Absolutely. Have you seen The Sopranos?
No, he hasn't.
I've tried 2 times,
says it
and I give
sucks.
up like 5 episodes in.
Well, that's embarrassing.
Is that the best story arc in...
Darth Vader?
Yeah.
I think so. When you watch the prequels, you'll appreciate it a little
Yeah,
more.
I was gonna
I'm not
say,
saying the execution was great, but
say,
with the concept and how
Can't
he
think
gets
of another
there.
character that might be
We'll get back to you on that.
better than that.
I'm
I'm going to forget about it by the next...
pod. 314-399-9646
Oh, I want to talk.
is
If
the
you're
Air
just
Comfort
talking
Service
Star Wars
text
on the
line.
Dad Pod, can I join?
No,
For
we don't do
questions
podcasts.
and answers. From the 636. Guys, how would everybody's predictions for this series change if the Panthers win Game 2 in a dominant fashion? Wouldn't change mine. I'd still go Oilers in 6.
This is going 7 in my opinion, and I still say Panthers in 7.
It wouldn't change me because I think you every now and then, even in the Cup final, you can lay a stinker. It would have to be like 2 consecutive, like just pure domination games. Then I might change.
They
my
were
mind.
down 3-0 last year in the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton was, and they came back and forced a Game 7. Like, it's never over.
I don't think anything from this series is really going to change my opinion until I win or until I see the Florida Panthers ultimately win this. Like, these teams are both so good that anything can happen, and whatever you thought coming into the series, probably what you believe coming out of yesterday. I don't think that changed your opinion. I don't think Game 2 should necessarily change your opinion one way versus the other.
It doesn't. The series doesn't change until a home team loses a game.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up in about 15 minutes, how do the Blues stack up against the Final Four teams in the NHL, and what does that say about what the Blues need to acquire this offseason? We'll get into that in 15 minutes. But next, is this Michael McGreevy's shot to earn a roster spot? We'll talk about it here on BK and Ferrario.
Keeping everybody on that 6th day is smart. And then it allows you to maybe open up your eyes of, okay, well, if we wanted to make a deal, right, if you wanted to make a deal for Fetty, you could have McGreevy jump right into to the rotation. The only problem with that is that you really don't have a lot of depth right now. He's light years ahead of where a young pitcher with his experience would generally be. So I think that you give him an opportunity like this, it might be one where he doesn't give it back.
Cardinals are operating with a six-man rotation in mind, and it sounds like Michael McGreevy is likely to be the one that gets that start in or against the LA Dodgers. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. That was Brad Thompson yesterday on the Fast Lane talking about what this opportunity could become for Michael McGreevy. Alex, I think it's a really interesting spot. You now have this doubleheader today, which throws things off scheduling-wise. So even if you weren't previously planning to do this, which they were, but even if you weren't, you probably have to go to some kind of a spot starter at some point against the Dodgers anyways. So now just like assures, all right, McGreevy, get excited. This is going to be your time. Probably Saturday. I don't know exactly when they're going to do this, maybe Sunday, but one of these games against the Dodgers will very likely be Michael McGreevy. What happens from there? Do you just get the spot start and then you send him back down and then it has to be at least 15 days before he's able to come back? Do you consider doing multiple starts during this stretch of games with Michael McGreevy? How do you approach this if you're in the Cardinals situation?
I mean, I go multiple starts with him here. To me, I approach this as we've got a competition now between Pallante and McGreevy. And it's not just because of that one start for Pallante, it's just the struggles we've seen over his last few starts. That would put me into the line of thinking it's like, all right, let's see what Michael McGreevy has. Because if Pallante is struggling, if it's certain pitches that aren't working for him or he's not confident in, might be a chance for him to reset himself if McGreevy looks good. And everything we've seen from McGreevy going back from last year to this season, he looks like he's ready for the major leagues. So I'd give him two starts. It would be the Dodgers and it would be the Brewers. And if it goes well for McGreevy after that stretch of 13 games in 13 days, then I'm going to look at this and say, you know what, McGreevy's earned a spot to stay in this rotation, and we'll see what it looks like as we move along, and that's where you come to the decision of Pallante. But if Pallante looks like he has figured it out in two starts and looks like he's gotten back to who he is, and McGreevy's pitching well, that's where you have to have a real conversation. But for right now, I'm giving him two starts in this stretch of baseball.
That does put you pretty thin in your bullpen. Right? It has the potential to, because now you have taken one of those spots. Normally, you have an 8-man bullpen that you operate with on any given day. Now you will be operating with a 7-man bullpen, and you do have some flexibility there. Like today, they've got Riley O'Brien up. I wonder if this is kind of an opportunity, hey, take this spot situation for him, where he comes in, and if he performs well, maybe he comes up eventually and he becomes one of those arms. Fonson goes down or Munoz goes down, and then you still have Roycroft who could do that as well. You've got some other options down there, but is that a consideration for you, the fact that you do have limited opportunities in the bullpen if you go to the 6-man rotation for a full swing through? I
mean, it's a concern, absolutely, especially for how the bullpen started to get a little shaky lately, and you wonder if you're starting to overuse guys like Leahy or Steven Matz. But to me, the whole point of going to the 6-man rotation is so you're giving your pitchers rest in the rotation to where that when they start, they could give you a little bit more opportunities to go deeper in games. You hope it works out that way. Obviously, as we saw with Pallante against the Royals, sometimes it doesn't work that way, where you got to get them out early because the game's been blown out of proportion. It's a concern, yes, but to me, I think right now the more pressing issue is finding out who's the better pitcher for you right now in the rotation, McGreevy or Pallante.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the bullpen in terms of potentially frying them. I would do what you're talking about, which is going 2 times through with the 6-man rotation, because I want to figure out, okay, who are we going to keep up here between McGreevy and Pallante? Like, I think it's fine to have an actual competition to decide who's going to be your 5th starter. As I said yesterday, it's not like you're taking away runway from a young kid. Either way, one of these young starters is going to remain here. And with their bullpen, they can really play the roster game with it, right? Like, you've got O'Brien, you mentioned, is the 26th or 27th man today. Doesn't count against him. He doesn't have to be down for 15 days. So when he goes back down tomorrow, then you can call him back up if you need be. You've also got Ryan Fernandez, who's eligible to come back, who quietly is pitching very well down in the minor leagues again. I just looked at this. He's only allowed 1 earned run in his last 10 innings, and he struck out 15 guys. Opponents 319 OPS in that stretch.
Okay.
So Fernandez might have figured things out. So you've got him to potentially call.
This is why you do what they did, by the way.
Yes.
This is why you send him down, to go figure it out.
Yes. They've also got a guy by the name of, now he's not on the 40-man, so this would require a 40-man move, heaven forbid, but Andre Granillo, I believe is how you say his name. He's been filthy, 14.2 strikeouts per 9 down in Memphis. He's pitching very well, 1.35 ERA in 26 2/3 innings pitched. Like, they have enough options for the bullpen to really utilize the Memphis shuttle right now, to where they can really make sure that they can just churn through a couple of guys and get away with things. I think it's okay for them to stick with a six-man rotation. Does it require some roster manipulation with some roster moves? Sure, but a lot of good baseball teams will do that. So I think it's fine to go with the just true six-man rotation.
Yeah, I think that's probably the move. I agree with you. You've got enough flexibility with your roster to be able to make it work. Those final two spots in the bullpen, hell, even if we're being honest, John King's spot is not like totally assured in my opinion. You could go ahead and flip through that as well. He also has options this year. So between King, Swanson, Munoz, those three spots, you could literally just the first 4 days, you go with those three. The last 4 days, you cycle through and you go with the other three guys that we've already mentioned here. You don't even have to make a 40-man roster move if you don't want to. You could just go with the guys that are down in AAA as a part of the bullpen, and it's almost like a line change for your bullpen where you just get fresh arms that come up. So they can make this work if they want to. The other thing that I really like, if you give him that second start, you'll be able to see on back-to-back days, depending on how they schedule this out, but I think this would be the way they do it. You could probably see on back-to-back days against the exact same lineup in Milwaukee, one day it's McGreevy, the next day it's Pallante, go battle for this spot. Let's see what you guys have got. And then you've got the off day the next day on that Monday before they take on Chicago, and then they could make the roster move. On that Monday, depending on who they prefer, either Pallante or McGreevy go back down to the minor leagues, and they just make their decision by mid-June on who's going to stay in the rotation. And then it's not guaranteed. You don't just immediately get to keep that the rest of the season. Now we continue to evaluate this thing, see where we're at. If McGreevy wins it, can you continue to churn out the starts the way that you have down in the minor league level? I'd love to see it. So I think this is a really smart way to operate right now. They're in a good time to be able to make a choice like this. And because of Pallante's struggles recently, it opens himself up to the possibility of him losing this spot to Michael McGreevy. And
I will add, this might actually help Pallante. I go back to what Michael said early on in the season, which was, hey, if anybody was going to be critical of a six-man rotation, I thought it would be Michaelis. He's kind of the older school pitcher like Adam Wainwright was. And Michaelis said, hey, I love the extra day because it gives me one more bullpen session. That might be the thing Pallante needs, right? If Pallante ends up winning through this competition with McGreevy, we might look back on it and say, hey, that extra bullpen day where we could work with Dusty Blake to try and refine the sinker.
He has had those.
Sure.
Because they've been on this schedule without the sixth man because of the off days that have been built in on Thursdays.
But continuing to go with those is the thing that could end up helping him, right? Really see if they can retune this sinker that has gone so AWOL for him so far this year.
I would also add, in this situation, I promise you this is not me throwing Ivan Herrera behind underneath the bus.
Here comes.
I do think it's fair for Pallante to be able to get an opportunity to throw to somebody other than Ivan Herrera in his upcoming starts. I just take that variable away.
If
Pallante ends up going out there and failing spectacularly with Pages behind the plate, at least now you know it's not the catcher, right? If it continues to be Herrera, that is like the designated, you get to start on days that Pallante is throwing, I do think that's a little unfair to Pallante.
I think Herrera should just have to catch exclusively for Michaelis because Michaelis is the one that he calls his own game. I think that's the one where it's like, okay, we'll give you.
Libby's got Pozo. They've become like a duo right now.
This is why they're keeping three catchers.
I don't think you're going to see, my guess, Herrera behind the plate for Gray.
No.
So Michaelis would be the other guy.
And Michaelis is the one that last year, or it was 2 years ago, where he said, I call my own game because it was about the pitch.
The pitch con.
So he'd be the one that it's like, okay, if you're concerned of Herrera's catching, put him out there with a guy who's going to shake off Herrera every single time.
I think the downside is he has 100 different pitches that he throws. So he got to be prepared for
just so much contact. Odds are there's going to be base runners, and then it can really snowball on you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's not
no.
This is the problem with Ivan Herrera as a catcher is you kind of have to schedule these things for him to be with
Make him an outfielder,
guy.
Right, BK?
I don't know what you do.
Back that van right over him.
To be honest, but for right now, I think you just during this stretch of games, you might just have him as often as humanly possible. He's the DH for right now. And you just operate accordingly. But I think that's probably the way they do that. All right, T-Bone, real quick before we get to the Blues on the other side, how they stack up against the other four teams that are currently or that were in the conference championship round. Are the Cardinals falling into old patterns when it comes to their roster? It's something you brought up in our pre-show meeting today. What did you make of the bench that they have to use right now, which is Pozo, Gorman, Barrero, and Valade, although Valade is starting in this first game of the doubleheader.
Yeah, and he was scheduled to start yesterday, too, against this same lefty before the rain came in and wiped it out. I think it goes to show you, their bench is just not good. I think you said this properly in the office. probably in the worst spot it's been all season long. I think they can create runway for guys still on this big league roster. I feel like the old habit they've fallen back into is playing short with their 26-man. They've got 26 guys on the roster. They're really playing with 24. They're not using Barrero, right? I find Barrero was a guy that they talked about, well, he can play center field, and we saw that for a couple of games, and now Nootbaar's starting in center field today. And they went back to Nootbaar after they emptied the bench against Texas, and they pinch hit for Victor Scott. So there's not really a role for Barrero. I would like to see them bring up Thomas Saggese again, because I think there's some runway here, and especially because it sounds like Jordan Walker got a cortisone shot in his wrist, which seems to think this is not going to be just a 10-day injury.
He's, quote, getting a few days without swinging to let that hold.
Yeah, this is going to be more than just a 10-day IL stint for Jordan Walker. So to me, there's runway for Thomas Saggese. You can bring him up, and especially in a stretch where you're playing like 27 games in 28 days, you're going to need to give guys off days. So you can try and schedule around getting starts for Thomas Saggese. When you go up against the lefties, there's definitely a role for him to be starting here, and you can push Donovan out to the outfield. I also think Luken Baker could help this team, too, by bringing him up. His numbers are not good in Memphis. He's still hitting lefties, though, in Memphis.
And that's the role.
And they clearly are on the page now of, hey, we're going to start pinch hitting for Victor Scott. They have started to slowly ease their way into that. They still, I think, want to pinch hit for Burleson against lefties as well. Baker has a role there. Now, maybe it's harder to start him against lefties. Guess what? That was Luken Baker's role as a bench bat this year. I think this roster can be maximized still by bringing up Luken Baker and bringing up Thomas Saggese.
If they don't do that, like if they just want to go with Valade for a little while, one thing that I would like to see them do, and I'd be curious the argument against this, I would like to see Saggese start taking some opportunities in the outfield down at AAA. I think you have enough coverage now at the major league level with the shortstop position. Donnie can play that spot if you really needed him to, right? Like I know part of this is that they would like to have Saggese as the backup shortstop. You can continue playing him there. You can continue playing him at second base as well. He's almost never going to get opportunities at third here at this level because you've got Gorman, you've got Donovan, you've just got other guys that are probably in front of him on the pecking order. So can he get some opportunities in right field? If this thing's going to be consistent with Walker for a little while, hey, over the next 2 weeks, why not find out? And that allows you to keep Valade here because Valade is apparently a guy they trust right now to get these opportunities. Cool, fine by me. See what it looks like. And then after those couple of weeks, if you find out Saggese can play the outfield, that adds that much more value to his roster spot here in St. Louis. And it actually opens up a decent amount of playing time for him because now he could be a guy that either replaces Walker in right field for the time being against left-handed pitchers where he gets those starts instead of Alec Burleson, or you just bump Donovan to the outfield. And then if you decide later in a game, hey, we'd like to pinch hit here for Saggese or whatever it may be, well, now you can go ahead and use the flexibility. So that's something that I would like to see. I don't know what the argument is against that. I'm sure there is one. They probably say, hey, it's something that we don't want to do for X, Y, and Z reasons, but I haven't heard those. I have not presented this to be fair to anybody within the organization. It's something that I would be curious about as to if they're considering that right now, since they clearly lack right-handed options in the outfield.
Yeah, it makes the most sense of why they are. It makes sense. It should make more sense why they're doing it now, because when you look at the position of just infield itself, specifically second and third base, I mean, you've got guys at the major league level now, but you also have J.J. Weatherhold in the system, who you believe is going to be playing in those spots. And Saggese screams super utility guy like Brendan Donovan to where, hey, and I mean, we looked at this. He has never played. I thought he did take reps in the outfield. He has never taken reps.
Not an inning.
Which kind of an alarming sign. And through two systems, he never took any reps in those positions.
Well, he was always viewed as an infielder.
And I guess, but man, if you're the bat, the way that he played last year versus this one, you got to look at this as if you're the Cardinals, we got to find a way to get him in. And where are we weakest in terms of depth? And it's the corner outfield spot. So why wouldn't you be trying to take some reps just so you know that bat could be available for you? Because T-Bone's right. Both Saggese and Baker make you a better team right now for how bad your bench has been.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, we stack up the Blues with the final four teams in the NHL this year and what it means about what they're missing. We'll talk about that next year on BK and Ferrario. Alex, we're going to talk about this for a minute on the air because we're going to talk about the Blues, give them a little bit more time coming up at 12:30.
Whoa.
There's just a big piece of news that came out about the Chicago White Sox. For baseball fans, honestly, this is a great news because the White Sox are owned by a dude that doesn't know how to own a baseball team, honestly. And it was just announced the Chicago White Sox announced that Jerry Reinsdorf and Justin Ishbia have reached a long-term investment agreement. That's a fancy way to say a way for Ishbia to take control of the team.
Yeah.
Making, quote, capital infusions into the White Sox as a limited partner in 2025 and 2026 that will be used to pay down existing debt and support ongoing team operations. The agreement provides that over the next 6 years, Reinsdorf will have the option to sell the controlling interest to Ishbia. So Reinsdorf basically gets to say every year from 2029 to 2033, yes or no, I want to sell the team to you. And then in 2024, Ishbia can say, it's mine now. And he gets to buy the team if at that point in time, it doesn't say this in the transaction, but, you know, it's kind of the unwritten thing, if Reinsdorf's still around. Because Jerry Reinsdorf is an older gentleman, and I was just talking to you about this off air, Alex. That is something that is horrifying to me, is like getting to the age where I know within the next 10 years I'm going to die. It is like something that I have panic attacks already at my age of 32.
Jesus, man.
About dying in my sleep.
Yeah.
When is it going to happen? Especially now that I have a kid, it's just anxieties about all of that. To get to the place where you're in Jerry Reinsdorf's position, and listen, for as poorly as it's gone, he has accumulated wealth. He has accumulated knowledge. This is a guy that has won championships. He's probably accomplished basically everything he could have dreamed of. And now he knows at some point in time over the next decade, I will die. And as part of that, he has agreed to basically get into a contract with somebody. This person will take over my team for me, either in the event that I die, or I will sell it to him before I die. If somehow a miracle takes place and I'm not dead in 2020,
Essentially his will
2024.
for the ownership of a team. I mean, that's what it is.
Do you have those same
No.
fears? Am I alone on this?
Some of it I think is just like
Jerry Reinsdorf, by the way, 89 years old.
That's a spring chicken.
yeah. I mean, that's you got to get
89,
another
10 years from now,
15
Odds
99.
are severely high that he's going to die in the next
Whoa,
10 years.
gosh,
I mean,
that
it's
kind of
true.
mindset.
He's not
that
wrong.
Statistically speaking.
I feel like when you're at that age, you know death is right around the corner, and so it's like, hey, man, it's going to happen at some point. I've lived a great life. All of my kids are growing up. If it happens, it happens. And I'm sure we're not going to go theology podcast for you here. I'm sure there's a greater purpose to where he's just comfortable with
Sure,
death.
yeah, no.
And that's probably where I'm at. Like, if it happens, it happens. I can't control that.
Yeah.
It is scary in the sense when you have young kids, because that, of course,
Hell yeah, it is, brother.
but I don't know if I'm losing sleep over it every night.
I sure am.
Like, if it happens, it happens. And I also get good sleep, I guess, when it happens. So
Bach a Hog on the YouTube chat says, guys, I'm 51 years old, survivor of a heart attack. My mortality is something that I'm always thinking about with debts, life insurance, etc. I have friends that have lived out, that I have outlived, that I went to school with. That's what's scary, man. It's crazy. It's wild.
I think I'm at the point now where it's like, if it happens, it happens.
Tiba.
When I get to a certain age, I've told Katie already, it's like once you get past like 75, oof, I'm sure you get to that point where you're like, probably best if that happens
We
now.
got this from the text line. T-Bone's an old soul. BK is an elderly soul. Might be some truth to that. I'm just an anxious soul.
Do you really just not like lose sleep at night because you're worried you won't wake
100%.
up?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Not with like regularity.
That's
but
a
there are
rough- that's a
absolutely- I would
rough way to
say
live.
There was like a couple of months ago, a week where I probably was up an hour a night, just like over there having a minor panic attack, trying to make sure that my wife didn't notice.
From the 636, you're good, BK. You work out.
That's true.
You avoid carbs.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is something that I spend a decent amount of time thinking about.
I like actively avoid things that like could make it happen faster. It's why I don't like going on planes because, that could probably happen a lot sooner.
When I am on a plane, the only thing that I can think about, if you just want me to get real,
is that it's going to go down?
no, that I am going to hit another plane. And that the plane will combust.
What?
And that will be the way that I go.
You're more worried about that than the plane just going down.
Correct. How do they know up there, man? Like, sometimes you get into the turbulence, you're in the middle of a cloud. You don't know.
You're in the middle of a cloud and you don't see the other
dude.
This isn't the Titanic where you don't see the iceberg coming at you.
I mean, it happens. sure it's happened before.
I mean, my active fear on a
There's
plane
a lot
is
of planes up there, dude.
my active fear on the plane is looking over and seeing the wing burst into flames more than worrying about a plane running into me.
That could absolutely happen again.
Yeah, I don't lose sleep over that, man. I think I've just maybe it's one of those things to where I've come to terms with what happens after.
I'm not telling you that you should feel this way. I am telling you that I do feel this way. And I'm also not telling you that I'm okay.
I think you need to talk to somebody to help you with this high level of anxiety that you have. This is why you have Tone with us all the time.
Maybe.
You don't get sleep.
Do you, like, so you know when you go in, I'll go ahead and get on the couch here for a second. You go into the doctor, right? And they have that questionnaire that you fill out.
Doc, I'm worried of another plane hitting the plane I'm in.
Well, they ask, like, do you feel anxious? And I always say, like, sometimes. Should I say a lot of the time?
Yeah, every day, I think is what you should be saying. You shouldn't be saying sometimes.
Somebody on the text line said hitting another plane is becoming more and more likely. See?
Yeah, but just...
T-Bone, do you not think about this stuff?
No, I was trying to think about how the Blues stack up with the Final Four NHL teams. That's what I would think about.
You have anxiety about that, man?
No, I don't have anxiety. Not really.
T-Bone lives his life to where it's like, if I go down, I'm going down with a hot dog in one hand and a beer in the other.
Does it look like I treat my body well to make it to 70?
We'll see how the Blues stack up against the other contenders next year on 101 ESPN.
Darren Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals play 2 today as Game 1 against Kansas City Royals starts in about 10 minutes as Miles Michaelis will be on the mound for the Cardinals. Then Game 2 tonight, 6:45. Matthew Liberatore will get the start for St. Louis. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6:30 with tip-off at 7. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. CMondoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Thanatophobia, that's what it is. Mortality anxiety. We got that out of the way.
I
that is
just
apparently what I've been prescribed with.
I want to say this out loud to you. I'm here for you, buddy, if you need to talk.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Because it seems like nighttime's a little stressful for you.
Sometimes. Most of the time, I'm totally fine.
I'd say call Ferrario, but don't probably in bed early.
Don't call past 10. Because I'm actually sleeping.
I'm typically not asleep by then. All right, so over on The Athletic, I promise you this is going to be a blue segment. Over on The Athletic, we're going to do an NFL quick hitter segment, so just so you guys know, you didn't lose out on any local content by what just took place.
Death was better than NFL quick hitters.
Yeah, basically, who are the teams that are going to go from worst to first this year? I think we'll probably have another opportunity to talk about that. Okay, so the Blues over on The Athletic, Alex, they did a breakdown. JR did this piece. It's really good work. It's with Dom's help with his numbers, but it's not Dom writing the piece. It's our friend JR, so we can go ahead and read this. So he wrote about how the Blues stack up against the Stars, the Hurricanes, the Oilers, and the Florida Panthers. So, Alex, the way they did this is they basically combined those 4 teams into the averages of those teams based on each position. So number 1 forward, top line forward, top 6 forward, etc., all the way down the roster. And then they compared that to what the Blues have to offer in those respective positions. My biggest takeaway from this, Alex, and I'm not going to go through each one individually. It would take too much time. We wouldn't have any time to discuss this on the radio, but you can go read it over at The Athletic, see the chart. The Blues are basically missing one piece on their forward group. One piece. It's a legit top-line forward. Now, maybe Pavel Buchnevich can become that again. He was that a couple of years ago. This year, he took a big step backwards. Maybe he's just the guy we're talking about, and you don't have to add him from the outside. It's somebody internally improving. Maybe Jordan Kyrou takes that next step. Maybe Dylan Holloway takes that next step. All of those are possible. But the easiest way to go add that guy going into next year would seem to be via either free agency or a trade. But that's the thing they're missing, because once you add that guy in right below Robert Thomas, everything else basically stacks up on your forward group with what these teams have to offer. You're not as good offensively, but overall, when you add in the defense and whatnot, you're basically there. Defensively, man, you stack up with them. You're really right there. You don't have as much offense, again, coming from your defensemen, but you've got the depth, you've got the quality that you really need to stack up with these other contenders. What was your biggest takeaway when you looked at these charts, comparing what the teams are that remain and what the Blues were this past season?
They're missing a finisher. They're missing a guy who consistently on the top line can put a puck in the net with Robert Thomas. I mean, like, I was telling you what I don't like about this is, like, I'd like to see the individuals, and it makes sense why they're doing this, but, like, I want to see how they stack up. First the Oilers, first the Stars, first the Hurricanes. But, like, if you break it down from what you're going off of that top line forward, because for the Edmonton Oilers, like, you're talking Connor McDavid, and then you're talking Leon Draisaitl. For the Dallas Stars, you're talking Mikko Rantanen would be that secondary top line forward to the number 1 center. For the Florida Panthers, you're talking Sam Reinhart to the Barkov. And then Carolina just throw to the wayside, because I don't even know how Carolina's, like, they bring the numbers down probably. But, like, those 3 teams that I just mentioned to you, they've all got guys who can finish and put the puck in the net. Like Sam Reinhart this past year, 39 goals and 81 points. The previous year, 57 goals and 94 points. Rantanen, who had a down year, but is consistently a 40 to 50 goal scorer. Now, these are very hard to find. But, yeah, what you're missing is you're missing that top-line guy that plays with Robert Thomas, that when the puck is on his stick, he's got a chance to score a goal. And I don't believe Pavel Buchnevich is that guy. Snuggerud, you're years away from finding out if he is that guy.
And let's be honest, that's really high expectations for anybody, especially Jimmy Snuggerud. If he becomes like a 30-goal scorer, I think you're probably pretty happy.
To go back to the Hurricanes, I know I said threw him in a dumpster and walk away from it, but, like, Sebastian Aho, I think you got that and Robert Thomas. Svechnikov is their number one guy. Well, you've got Svechnikov. Whether you want to go Jordan Kyrou with it or Pavel Buchnevich with it, the numbers are pretty similar.
Sure.
But in an ideal world on these teams that they're ranking, Pavel Buchnevich is probably on that second line with a Jordan Kyrou. So you're looking for that guy who, with Robert Thomas, and remember, Doug Armstrong told us this a couple of years ago, the Blues' goal is to find the guy for Robert Thomas to put him in the Selke Trophy conversation. You're missing the dude that's a 40-goal scorer on this team every single season. And I don't know how you find that.
I don't know how you find it either. I mean, Reinhart's a really difficult person to compare to because he's also good defensively. Mm-hmm. And but you look at it, he had that season last year where he had scored 57 goals.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
It's unnatural.
That's also not who he is. He scored 27 of those 57 goals on the power play. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. He's mostly been a 30 to 35 goal scorer in his NHL career. That could be Jordan Kyrou. And I'm exclusively talking about the finishing ability there. Okay, I'm not bringing up what he is defensively, just the finishing ability. Kyrou has been that, really, for most of his NHL career. I think what's difficult, Alex, when I'm comparing the Blues to these teams, like, they're all so different in how they go about it, and they all have very clear identities. Edmonton is a true top-heavy team, right? It's not only Draisaitl and McDavid, it's also, when you look at their defensive core, with what they have with Evan Bouchard, right? You look at it with Florida. They are just this attack you from all angles, especially with their top six. It is a relentless forecheck. Defensively, they've just got these tree trunks in every pairing that they're throwing at you. Physicality everywhere. Like, they have a very clear identity. Carolina, we know exactly what they are no matter who they put on the ice. They play to a system. And then Dallas, we know exactly who they are as well. They're a very clear identity. And that's something that I will give the Blues a lot of credit for this past year. They have an identity. Mm-hmm. And what I'm going to find interesting this offseason is whatever they do to add, whoever that player is, they have to fit the identity. That's why somebody on the text line brought up Mikael Granlund. I don't think he fits.
No, he doesn't.
I don't think that's what they're looking for. Like, Pius Suter actually fits a lot more with what the Blues want to be than a guy like Granlund does. I don't know that he would be my top option. He wouldn't be. But he fits what this team is right now much more. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in what these other teams are doing. There's a conversation with this with the Cardinals with their home run hitting as well. But we get so caught up with what these other teams have done to be successful that we lose sight on what does the best version of this team look like, though? Yeah. How do you get the most out of this group? And that might not be that 40-goal scorer who goes out there and just plays no defense. It might actually be a 30-goal scorer that you bring in that plays more similarly to Dylan Holloway, but at the center position.
Well, and that's, go off of what Doug Armstrong said. Like, they'd be looking for a 200-foot offensive weapon. I think sometimes you do have to match the team to the coach's identity. Jim Montgomery is not a transition speed team that's just all about offense like the Edmonton Oilers are. Like, he's more in line with what the Florida Panthers like to do, to where it's gritty, it's intense, and it's making sure you're good in your own end just as much as you're good in the offensive end. Like, I truly believe that in an ideal world, Dylan Holloway might be this guy. Dylan Holloway might be the Sam Reinhart for you, to where he is on a wing with Robert Thomas, he generates offense, and he plays well defensively, because that was their weakest link down the stretch. It was finding somebody that made the Robert Thomas line as good as it can be, because a go-to for a long period of time was Kyrou, Schenn, and Holloway. Holloway might be that guy, and then it's the trickle-down effect. You move a Buchnevich down. Does he generate offense on a secondary role? It's why I'm not searching for a top-line winger. I'm still searching for a number two centerman. If I can get a number two centerman that generates the amount of offense that a line can do, just like Robert Thomas could do, or like what Schenn, Kyrou, and Holloway could do, well, now it's the trickle-down effect. The Blues are a pack mentality team. They're not a Rantanen team. They're not a Sam Reinhart team. We're going to beat you with four lines generating offense and good defensively. It's a matter of finding the right guy that brings all of the other pieces into the puzzle that work together, and I think it's a second-line center.
Okay, so I want to do this real quick. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. This one comes from Starvin Marvin. Guys, we're lacking offensively. Granlund is an offensive heavyweight. You guys want to double down on defense rather than add offense, ? That's not necessarily what I'm saying. Although, yes, I do think that they should continue to build up the defense. Alex, what the Blues are replacing this offseason potentially? I know you don't love this idea, but let me go through this real quick.
Sorry. To say that Granlund is an offensive juggernaut, like, are we... What? Greenland has never posted more than 25. I'm sorry, he posted it once back in 2016, 2017. And we're going to act like this guy's an offensive juggernaut? Sorry. I don't know how we label a guy who scored 5 goals in the playoffs offensive juggernaut. Also 33 years old. The last 3 seasons, combined with the amount of teams that he played with, 10 goals, 12 goals, 22 goals. Is that an offensive juggernaut to you?
No.
It's because he's on the Sharks.
I didn't mean to yell at you. This is just...
Hey, man, been there.
not to be mean, but this is a dumb thing to say.
That's just a thing you disagree with. I'm learning that is a better way to frame things.
Sure.
Okay, so the Blues this past year scored 250 goals. They were 13th in the NHL in goal scoring production. Let's go through this real quick because this is something that I think is worthwhile. Faksa scored 5 goals this past season.
Hell yeah, he did.
Let's say Faksa is replaced in this scenario by Jimmy Snuggerud in the lineup, okay? It's not a 1-for-1, but go down this path with me, okay? Snuggie, you think 25 goals this year? Fair, reasonable expectations?
Yeah, 20 to 25.
Okay. That's a plus 20 in goals scored from last year. This is assuming everything else stays the same. Nothing else. You don't get like career years from any guys, but that everything else stays the same, which won't necessarily be the case. All right, that puts you up to 270. That would have ranked 7th in the NHL this past season. Okay. Texier and Joseph, let's replace them in the lineup. Okay, that spot with those 2 guys, they scored 10 goals last year combined. Let's say they go out and sign somebody that scores 20 goals in this upcoming year. That's the expectation for them, right? So, like Pius Suter, let's say he scores 20 goals for the Blues next year. I don't think that's going to be the guy, but maybe it's your boy, Alex. Maybe they go out and sign Trent Frederick. 20 goals for the Blues next year.
Put it for 10.
Okay. Maybe they go trade for somebody.
You need to keep just doing this because we're not there yet.
20 goals from whoever it is that they get. That's a plus 10. 10 more. That's put you up to 280 goals.
Oh, buddy.
Where do you think that would have ranked this past season?
Oh, that's got to be first.
3rd.
Who had
Washington
more?
and Tampa Bay were both very good offensively this past season.
They scored more than 300? I don't think...
280.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was 292 for Tampa, 286 for Washington this past season. All of that was by replacing Texier/Joseph's spot in the order and Fox's spot by a free agent or a trade at center, and then Snuggerud taking that spot of Texier and Joseph. And not having some outlandish expectation from them, just everybody else doing what they did a year ago. That's why I don't necessarily know that it is vital for the team to go out there and add some 40-goal score. You are built a certain way where you can get away with pack mentality in a way that many other teams cannot.
Yeah. I mean, you are.
Long-winded way to get there.
No, I mean, you're right. And I mean, we're also not putting into consideration with this how much the offense drives from the defense, because that's another factor into some of this. And that's where the Fowler and the Broberg things come into play. I just, as much as I watch the Oilers and the Florida Panthers, like, you get excited and say, like, that's what we need. You need a Matthew Tkachuk. You need a Sam Reinhart. Those things don't happen very often. Like, those trades don't come to fruition, and Florida just happens to make both of those moves. What you do is you find the proper measurements with your line combinations to generate multiple options that can score goals for you. And I think the Blues did a really good job of it this past year.
100%.
You saw the secondary offense with the Holloway and Kyrou, and then you saw what a Bolduc or a Neighbors can provide.
And do you think there's guys that you expect to have like a significant drop-off from this past year?
No, I actually think there's guys I expect to have a decent upside, like more. Like, I think Holloway's putting up more goals.
He had 26 last year. I think that 26 to 30 feels.
Yeah, I think he's a 30 to 35 goal scorer if he stays healthy.
Jake Neighbors was at 22. I think that's about right.
25 is where I kind of put him
Robert
at.
Thomas, 21. Feels about right to me.
He should be 30.
Pavel Buchnevich was 20 this past season. I think he's got to be at least that moving forward. Bolduc was 19. I think he's a 20-goal scorer. Shin was 18. That's not out of the realm of what I expect for him this upcoming season. And then Parayko's probably the guy that you expect to come back a little bit. He had 16 goals for the Blues last year. You could basically just go ahead and put those to other guys, right? Like, maybe you end up getting some of those to Booch. Booch becomes a 25-goal scorer instead of a 20-goal scorer, and then Parayko's closer to 10. Again, that feels about right to me. So I don't think you had a bunch of guys that just way outperformed expectations offensively this past year. I don't think it's crazy to think the Blues could be a top 5 offense in the NHL in goal-scoring production next year if they go add a 20 to 25 goal scorer and Snuggie takes the step that we're expecting. That's what it requires.
Yeah.
But that's why when I look at a chart like this, I see offensively they don't stack up against these top 4 teams. Fair to a degree. I don't know that they have to. in order to score the goals. I think they're actually in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, and a lot of the times we see, like, because Florida, for example, like the reason you look at Florida is because of those top-heavy guys. Anton Lindell is their third-line center. He scored 17 goals in the regular season for them this past year, and he's got 5 so far in the postseason. Like, it comes down to how much does your offense generate in the middle six. And that's why we're talking about upgrading there, because Oscar Sundqvist had 6 goals for you there. If you can get a middle six centerman to put up 20 goals for you, your offense just now generated 14 more goals there, and it added the assists that could potentially go into a Neighbors and a Bolduc. I totally agree with you. With Jim Montgomery at the helm, if you can upgrade that middle six center, you're talking about a top 5 offense next year.
At least it has the potential to be. Who knows with injuries? Stuff happens. Like weird things take place in a year. Maybe somebody has a career down year like Booch did a year ago. Maybe Kyrou just has the year from hell. It's possible. These weird stuff happens, right? But I do think it's something worth keeping in mind. That is the upside case for the Blues offense. We did get this from the 314. Guys, I'm not a hockey expert. Can somebody explain to me the importance of structuring the lines? To me, it seems like if it's the same talent, swapping a batting order, for example, that could help, but still the same people if you're lacking in the talent. Am I missing something? The big thing, Alex, and this is just my understanding from hearing coaches talk about this. I know Hitch was somebody like this all the time. Berube, same thing. You want to have multiple different playing styles on the line with the same vision for how the line looks. So, like, you don't want necessarily Torpo on the top line with Robert Thomas. They just don't view the game the same way. But you do need somebody with Robert Thomas that drives to the net, that clears out the front of the net, and has that ability. And then you want somebody else probably with Thomas that's a sniper. Yeah. So it's different roles. That's probably the way that I would think of it. Think of it like a wide receiver core. You don't want 3 guys that all have the same exact style. You don't want 3 slot receivers all on the field at the same time. You want somebody that can win across the middle from the slot. You want somebody that can win over the top, right, as a go up and get it guy. And then you want somebody that can win in the intermediate areas as well, maybe a little bit more of a gadget type of a player. So that's kind of the way that I view line structures. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. Like, every line plays a different style. Everybody has the same goal in mind. There's only a couple of strategies in hockey. Typically, it's put the puck in and go to the front of the net, unless you're the Edmonton Oilers where you can win through the transition game. But every line has different identities. Like, we saw that WTF line, their identity was to go out there and just bring energy for the rest of put the puck in the right position. But talking with guys, Robert Thomas, he's a guy that likes to play below the goal line. He's a guy that likes to get the puck. He likes to look for options below the goal line and make passes. The reason that Kyrou didn't work out a lot of the times with that line was because Kyrou likes to play off of the rush. Kyrou and Holloway worked so well because they could play off the rush and find offense with their 100%. Speed. You've got different lines that play with different styles that all have the same end goal in mind of what the coach wants from them.
He's Alex. It's T-Bone on BK. The Junk Drawer is next. Alex has something in common with the greatest hockey player of all time. We'll tell you what that is next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, Cardinals already down 1-0 in the second inning against the Royals. Jonathan India with a leadoff home run against Miles Michaelis. Michaelis gave up a lot of contact, a lot of hard contact in that first inning. Cardinals then go down in order, although Mason wins. Deep fly ball would have been a home run in 13 different ballparks, but not today at Busch Stadium. All right, let's dive into the junk drawer. Alex, last night after the game, Stanley Cup Finals Game 1, TNT was having a discussion, and I don't know if you saw, but there was a certain song that became a little bit of a phenomenon for the Oilers, and they were discussing this on the broadcast after the game, and it made me realize you have something in common with the greatest hockey player in the history of the world. Take a listen.
One of the fans had Dreisaitl's head superimposed on the Pink Pony Club. I don't know how the song came to be. It's kind of like Jobu, where it's maybe
is that right?
Kind of a secret inside the locker room. I don't know how the whole thing sparked and began, but they seem to be rallying around it and enjoying it.
But no one's giving details.
Nobody yet. That's why I was trying to ask a few questions about it.
Pink Pony, is that a band or is that a song?
It's a woman. She sings a song, Pink Pony Club, and it's famous. It's on the radio. And,
Canadian, American?
I think it's an American girl, but all of a sudden it popped off. I believe she won a few Grammys, and now they're rocking it in the locker room. So I'm curious.
Pony.
It's the new generation.
Yeah,
Wayne.
I gotta get that on my ringtone.
This is Wayne and I are absolutely in the same boat.
Wayne Gretzky had no idea what the Pink Pony Club was. No clue whatsoever. Alex has been asking me about Chapel Roan. By the way, this is a Chapel Roan song if you're not familiar, Alex.
Believe me, I know.
He's been asking me about Chapel Roan for like a year.
Annoying song.
Wayne Gretzky's right there with you, dude. You got great company.
He didn't even know the song. He goes, American Girl or Canadian Girl? He didn't even know. Like, Pink Pony Club, I'll have to make that my ringtone.
The first question was, is that a song or an artist? A band? He said, is it a band?
Yeah, no, that was Wayne not wanting to put himself in a bad spot. Be like, I'll have to go check that one out. Wayne, I know. You and I, no Pink Pony Club
Better
for us.
theme song. Gloria or Pink Pony
Gloria.
Club?
I can't even believe you asked that question. Pink Pony Club is going to be the reason the Edmonton Oilers lose in 7.
T-Bone, you got any thoughts on this?
Oh, Pink Pony Club much better than Gloria.
I hate.
I said it.
I hate the song so much.
Do you really?
Yes. And welcome.
Your wife likes it though, I bet.
No, she doesn't.
Really?
No.
Okay.
My wife and I are very similar in our music taste, and we are.
Do you like her country song?
No, I don't like anything about Chapel Roan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even her country stuff?
No, don't like any of her music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Out on that.
Somebody said BK Ferrario, the official sports radio show of the Pink Pony Club, just the BK side of things. Alex very much not.
I can't believe T-Bone literally just said Pink Pony Club better than Gloria. You have now entered the most hated person in St. Louis group with T-Bone.
And I'm a Rams fan. What do you think of that too, St. Louis?
I agree with T-Bone on the Pink Pony Club side of things, but I will distance myself from the Rams.
Oh, God. Oh. This terrible song.
You also hated Country Roads, so you.
Yeah, you didn't get it.
I don't mind the song. I hate Country Roads being played as the anthem in the third period of a Blues game.
The Blues also apparently decided not to do that anymore.
There's nothing more.
You weren't alone.
There's nothing more vibe downgrading than down by a goal in the third period and Country Roads take me home. Randy Carricker hated this argument from me, but anybody in a stadium in the third period.
I think you were on the winning side considering the Blues got rid of it.
Anybody in a hockey stadium in the third period with 10 minutes to go are going to sing along with whatever song you put out in front of them.
That's correct.
Don't believe me? Go to a Blues game in the third period because now they'll just play anything, and it's great because it's karaoke session for people. Country Roads at Blues games.
He's Alex T-Bone on BK. It's
Pony
BK
Club.
Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. I think it's a great song. I enjoy Chapel Roan, though. I understand that people don't like her. That's totally cool by me. I enjoy the music. I think it's good. Coming up next, how many Cardinals have a case to make the All-Star game? The official ballots were revealed yesterday. We'll talk about it next here on BK and Ferrario. So how many Cardinals have a legitimate case to be made for this year's All-Star Game? Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. The ballots were revealed yesterday, Alex, and the Cardinals catcher, for those that are curious, is Pedro Pajes. Their DH is Ivan Herrera.
What the hell?
Alex, when you look up and down this roster, how many legit candidates do you think they have for the All-Star Game this year? Guys that you think you could actually make a strong case this player should maybe not start, but should appear in the All-Star Game, should be on the roster from the Cardinals.
So Brendan Donovan, absolutely. I would say
I think he should start this year.
I think he's a starter, absolutely.
I don't know that he'll be voted in because of the name recognition. I'm not sure it's there for him yet, but I think he should be in the game at a minimum.
Mason Wynn won't be a starter, but Mason Wynn should be an all-star for the season that he's had.
Agree.
I think that's it I'm sorry, Ivan Herrera for the DH. Even for the small sample size that he was injured, I still think his numbers should put him in the All-Star game. And then I think that's it. Ryan Helsley, I guess you could make the argument for a relief pitcher.
We know how this works, right? When you have the type of pedigree that Helsley does,
when you've been there before,
have to be pretty bad to not get that opportunity.
So I think that would be it because I wouldn't have any starting pitchers in there, and I wouldn't have any other position players. So, yeah, that'd be it. So Donovan, Wynn, Herrera, Helsley. Those would be my four.
I would go Donovan as well. To me, he starts. I agree with that. I think Wynn belongs in the All-Star game. I mean, there's a chance by the end of the day he's got a 800 OPS. He's at 795. He's been incredible. Plays Gold Glove level defense. Herrera, that one's tough because he missed time. His numbers are there. I just don't know because of the injury. I would be okay either way on him. I also, Helsley, I agree with as well. To me, there's a case for Matthew Liberatore.
I was about to say, that's one that I wanted to hone in on afterwards, but go ahead.
I think he has a case to be there, right? You look at the numbers. It's a 3.08 ERA, covering 64 1/3 innings pitched. He's one of the top guys in WAR in baseball right now. Doesn't walk anybody, and he's striking out about 8 per 9 innings. That's an all-star resume right there. But because the National League is so loaded with pitchers, I don't know if he's going to get recognized, but I could make a case that Liberatore belongs if you're going to take one guy from the rotation.
You only get 12 pitchers on this roster. If you look at it starting pitching-wise, Kodai Senga is putting up a ridiculous season this year, and he's on one of the best teams in the National League. Paul Skeens will make the All-Star game. I mean, let's be honest.
And then he'll get traded.
Yamamoto will probably be an All-Star this year. By the way, remember last year when he was not that good? He's a stud. He's an ace. Robbie Ray is having a legit comeback season this year. I think one of the two starters for the Giants will get in, whether it be Ray or Logan Webb. Now that Burns is down, that no pun intended, crashes and burns his case for the All-Star game. Then you're probably having him in the conversation with Chris Sale, Zach Wheeler, and he's just not going to win those popularity contests. Mackenzie Gore might end up getting in for Washington. I don't think there's a real case to be made for Liberatore, unfortunately, even though he's having a very good season.
That's why I didn't put him in there. I just don't know how you have a case for it because I also think track record comes into this, like you mentioned, and although he's been great, and he has been great half of a season, if he does it for this full season and then starts this way next year, then I think we're having the conversations of him being in that all-star conversation. But, yeah, I think he probably should be in the conversation, but there are just so many pitchers, and because you can have such a short amount of them on that roster. Now, when injuries happen or guys back out of it, I wonder if that opens the door for Liberatore if he continues this. But as it stands now, I wouldn't have him in that conversation.
Yeah, I don't think he gets there. He belongs in the conversation because, you look at his numbers from the National League, he's top 20 in ERA so far in the National League. But, again, to show you how good the pitching's been, we talked about this yesterday, sub 3.5 ERA guys. Right now, there are 27 of those guys in just the National League, right? I didn't even go through and look on top of the American League guys. And some of these guys, their teams are going to need representatives. Like Andrew Abbott's probably going to be the guy for the Cincinnati Reds this year on top of Ellie De La Cruz. So he belongs to at least say, hey, what if I threw this name out there? Problem for him, though, is there's so many other guys that deserve to be ahead of him.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. Somebody from the text line said, guys, are you forgetting about Ellie De La Cruz, Lindor, and Turner? Wynn is good, but he's probably not that good to get in. Man, do you guys think Ellie De La Cruz is having a better season this year than Mason Wynn? I don't. If you look at it offensively, Mason Wynn, in terms of his OPS plus, is at a 126. Ellie De La Cruz is at a 113. So just by offensive production, there's no contest. It's clearly Mason Wynn. Now, if you want to look at the volume numbers that are on top of that, like Mason Wynn has 2 steals, Elliot De La Cruz has 19. So, if you look at RBIs, right, Mason Wynn is 20, Elliot De La Cruz has 43. Those numbers will not help Mason Wynn's case. They're just the big flashy numbers, right? The classic average, home runs, RBIs, stolen bases. That's going to go in Elliot De La Cruz's favor. But I think you can make a pretty strong case. I don't even think it's hard case to be made. Mason Wynn is a much better defender.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's already got 10 errors at shortstop this season, which leads Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he's a better defender, and he's been more productive offensively. I think Mason Wynn is having the better season of the two. Now, the Reds have to have somebody that represents their team in the All-Star game. And if you're Major League Baseball, I would like to have Elliot De La Cruz in that game.
What? Not the guy that throws 90? That's just a soft toss to the lefty?
Hunter Green's a good
not
one.
him. He's
Andrew
injured.
Abbott.
Abbott is the one I was talking about.
Probably who you're referencing. And then Hunter Green is another guy that you could throw into this mix as well. He throws 99. Maybe that ends up
Hunter
being
Green's
the
having
guy.
a great season, too.
Very good season, only to be outperformed by his starting pitching mate in Andrew Abbott, who has a 2.1 ERA this year. So that's, again, why Liberatore is probably not going to make it. But I would... If the season were to end today for the All-Star voting, I would have Mason Wynn personally in over Elliot De La Cruz, but that's not how it works, and there's other considerations that are taken into account. I would have him in for sure over Elliot De La Cruz, and then the question becomes C.J. Abrams, Trey Turner, Mason Wynn, who among those three probably take 2 of them into the All-Star game. And I could hear the conversation there for any of the 3. Take 2 of them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's been better than Elliot De La Cruz. I mean, you mentioned the OPS plus numbers. Like, that's kind of low for a guy that plays in the Great American Small Park, right? His numbers, the volume numbers look better. His OPS plus tells you he's kind of underperforming for his standards at that ballpark. Mason Wynn is 4th in the National League in OPS right now. The only guys he's behind, Trey Turner, C.J. Abrams, and Francisco Lindor. Like, he belongs in the conversation. I don't know if he's going to get there because that is just a stacked list. And I didn't even mention Geraldo Perdomo, who's been very good for the Diamondbacks as well. He is a deserving All-Star. He has, I think it's fair to say, more of a case to be in than Matthew Liberatore just because there's so many other guys ahead of Liberatore in terms of ERA and stuff. Wynn's the guy, though, that has everything that you would want from a shortstop, right? He's putting up numbers. He plays great defensively. He has decent speed. His steal numbers aren't there. He's got decent speed, though. And he's not making – he's got a little bit of swagger to him as well, right? Like, I think he's like a perfect guy that you would want at an All-Star game for this kind of thing if you're Major League Baseball. Problem is that's what can be said for a lot of other shortstops that are right there with him.
And then we brought up Herrera as well, Alex, just to go through the cases for some of these guys. Like Libby, we knocked down. Wynn, I don't think is probably going to make it. I think he should. Helsley, I think will probably get in. Donnie, I think is a no doubt about it. I think he should start.
He should start.
Herrera on the DH side of things, Shohei Ohtani is going to start. We can agree on that.
Yeah, probably.
And Kyle Schwarber and Marcell Ozuna will get in above Ivan Herrera this year.
Yeah. I don't think Shohei's got a case for it.
No. 295.
I don't think that would be good for All-Star games.
23 home runs in the first 60 games.
Ohtani, you're only allowed if you can pitch.
Yeah, seriously. You're a pitcher, not a DHer.
This guy is absurd, man. He's batting 295 and he has 23 home runs. We've played 60 games.
Yeah, but what else does he do?
Yeah, he has 11 stolen bases.
Yeah, but what else does he do?
Dude, he's unreal.
He doesn't strike out and he walks 14% of the time.
Okay, but what else?
I never thought somebody would make me fear a Michael Bublé song because that's what he comes up to.
He comes up to a Michael Bublé song?
Yeah.
What song is
amazing.
it? That's an even better question.
He comes up to...
Tell me it's Haven't Met You Yet.
No, it's... I just went back and listened to it because I was like, how did he choose
love
this?
Michael Bublé.
Feeling Good is the one he
that's a good
goes with.
song.
It is a good song.
Modern day Frank Sinatra, they call him.
He makes me terrified. Like, I hear that
go to a
song
Michael
playing.
Bublé concert.
I thought you were going to say a Frank Sinatra concert. I'm like, well,
I wouldn't do that too.
It's not gonna
if
happen,
you could find
man.
a way to, I bet you AI will make that possible.
oh,
for you.
yeah, I'll go to it too. I did go to a Michael Bublé concert. I went to a Christmas concert. Phenomenal.
Really?
Yeah. So
Enjoyed it?
if you want to know why I don't like Pink Pony Club, that's my type of genre.
I like both.
I do too.
I'm open to all.
I'm open to all, just not Pink Pony Club.
I don't think that's true at all.
No, it's very true. I'll listen to it, but if I don't think it's good, that will be the only time I listen to
That's
it.
fair. I'm saying I don't think you are open to liking all.
Well, no, I won't. I will give it one shot, and then when it's bad, no, not for me. And you also know how I work. If everybody's talking about it, it just makes me hate it even more.
What's that K-pop song that became like the top song for 2024?
Gangnam
again?
Style?
No.
Love
The
Gangnam
recent
Style.
one that came out. It's the
I couldn't tell you one K-pop song, so I don't know.
that one is the one song recently that I hear on the radio and I immediately am like, I have to turn this off.
You know that scene? You know that scene in Shrek when they put the coin in that machine and all those things start singing that song? That's kind of what I envision K-pop bands are.
Shrek reference?
Yeah, I watch Shrek a lot with my girls, and K-pop kind of scares me, so I'm out.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Believe it or not, is next year on 101 ESPN.
Now
This is the call.
Oh, yeah.
See?
This is better than
This is
Pink
what
Pony
we can
Club.
get on board with.
Never listened to it before this show, but this is great. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
Free, flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
Been working on my flapping lately. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service sex line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are believing it or not here on 101 ESPN.
Not become the Blues rally song for wins, right? Like, how did that not happen?
What would you have recommended this year for their song? Pink Pony Club's a pretty good one.
Oh, God, no.
It's a crowd pleaser.
No, it's not a crowd pleaser.
Take what the Oilers are doing.
Everything is
they were going to do it at the time.
Everything is a crowd pleaser. Something with love in the title.
They were big on love.
Yeah, they were big on love. Well, what's that Rihanna song? We found love in a...
That's a pretty good one.
That is a good one.
I don't even know what the title of it is, but that's what it would be.
No, but I knew what you were talking
about. Look at the
about.
bird sitting right there, BK. Look, it must be a sign for you.
Oh, pretty birdie.
Oh, pretty bird.
That's actually amazing.
It's cleaning itself. It saw BK flap its wings and was like, oh.
Hi, pretty birdie. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Believe It or Not. Guys, there was a trade that was proposed yesterday on Bleacher Report, and it got the internet abuzz.
I believe that.
People were quite upset. They said the Cardinals should send J.J. Weatherholt and Quinn Matthews to the Boston Red Sox, and in return, they would get Jarren Duran, one of my favorite baseball players, who almost exclusively hits doubles and triples. It's a hell of a lot of fun to watch him play. Fast as hell.
Why are all of your favorite baseball players on other teams?
Well, I have a type, as you guys know.
Bobby Witt Jr.,
It's Jarren Duran, it's Bobby Witt Jr.,
Shohei Ohtani,
it's Mason Wynn, it's Victor Scott.
See what he did?
All of those guys. So this made people upset because, it's too much to give up for Jarren Duran. Alex, believe it or not, the Cardinals will make a trade like this in the offseason to add a superstar.
I'm going to not believe it because I don't think the Cardinals do this. I think they should do this. Now, Duran's not the guy that I would target because I think the Cardinals he does hit a ton of doubles and triples. I think the Cardinals are missing that middle of the order home run bat, and I don't know where the hell those guys come from, but I do think they should, but I don't believe they will.
I'm going to say not believe it. They should do it. I don't know how they're going to operate under Chaim Bloom. And I can't think of a guy that Chaim Bloom went out and traded for, right? Like, he went out and signed Trevor Story, regretted it. I don't know if ownership's still going to operate like they used to. They should, right? I still think that formula can work. And I do think there's the potential of a couple teams this year that might be surprise sellers both at the deadline and then in the offseason to kind of change up their core. But I'm right now I'm going to bank on they don't do it, so not believe it.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe this either. I do think they're going to probably operate like a team that, I'm not going to say hoards the prospects, but these top-level guys, they're going to try to promote them from within, and those become your stars at the major league level. I don't think they'll do it. I do agree with you both, though. I would like to see them get aggressive. I don't know if that includes Weatherholt or Quinn Matthews, but they've got a lot of pieces that could get you a high-level talent. And this team right now, as currently constructed, they've got a lot of depth. Mm-hmm. They could use that high-level talent. That's what they're missing. Alex, what do you got for us today?
Believe it or not, boys, the Blues should really be targeting Elias Pettersson in a trade this offseason.
You know how I am with flashy things that get exciting. And
yeah, we heard with Sam Bennett. I'd pay him the money.
I don't know what to make of what's happened with him in Vancouver. He seems like a really difficult dude to get along with. And he was not just like disappointing this past year. He was genuinely bad. Like a hindering factor to them winning because of how horrible he was. If you think it was a bad season for Pavel Buchnevich, go look at what Elias Pettersson produced this year, making more money than him and expected to be more, and in the prime age of 26 years old. So if that's who he is now, yeah, you want no part of this. My fear is this becomes a situation similar to Pierre-Luc Dubois, and he needs to be in the exact right situation to be able to get back to his performance levels. But
well, he is Swedish, and I'd say the Blues have the perfect situation for that.
The upside here is enormous.
The upside here is a 100-point player consistently every season, and he's 26. Here's the proposal I had in mind.
Kyrou.
And I don't know if I would do this. Kyrou and Dvorsky. Now, what you are getting,
I think I'd do it,
is a 1-2 punch of Thomas and Pettersson moving forward.
I'm serious. I think I would do it.
I think I would do it too, man.
I'm not doing it. I'm not banking on a guy that just literally laid an egg in Vancouver.
Yeah, but how do we know that the head case that he wasn't a result from JT Miller?
I mean, I don't. If I think you're a head case, you're not here. Period.
We thought Pierre-Luc Dubois was a head case?
I wouldn't bring him here. I wouldn't have brought Pierre-Luc Dubois here.
Here's why you don't do this, in my opinion. the Blues aren't in a desperate situation. The Capitals were. The reason why they make that move for Pierre-Luc Dubois
And they wanted
is
to get
we
out of
are
that goalie.
desperate. We've got to find a way to extract as much as possible out of the final years of our superstar talent in Alex Ovechkin, right? The Blues are not currently in that position. So, like, would I do that as a reckless, dumb idiot that's on the radio? Yeah, I'd probably do that, Alex.
Yeah.
Would Doug Armstrong and should Doug Armstrong do it? Probably not. If we're being honest, probably not.
Yeah.
But, man, it's enticing.
And I'm not trying to fall for like the sexiness that is Elias Pettersson's numbers, but like I always look at it and say like, okay, well, what went wrong where he was at, and could it be a problem elsewhere? And it absolutely could be. But you also wonder if the situation in Vancouver just got so bad. I mean, it's not just Pettersson. Like Quinn Hughes wants out now.
Yep.
We think Quinn Hughes is a head case. Part of me wonders if Vancouver has just turned into a disaster, and you take a player who's a 100-point MVP-esque type of player and put him in a better situation. Does he? Because you wish Dvorsky turns out to be this player.
Oh, there's almost no chance of him becoming this.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. It's a fascinating one, but it does seem like Vancouver might be in a position where sell.
Thomas and Pettersson down the middle puts you into the contender status.
It's probably the second best center depth in the National Hockey League behind McDavid and Draisaitl.
In this scenario, so your combinations would be Snuggie, Booch, and Thomas.
And then Holloway, Neighbors, Bolduc, whomever, with Pettersson.
You do feel light on the wing there?
You do, but that's an area of strength for you, at least where you're at. You're putting Texier in a third line
I think
role.
I would go Neighbors with them on that line. Neighbors, Holloway, and Pettersson, just so I've got a little bit more physicality on the edge.
And I mean, you've got Bolduc, you've got Texier, who's going to be a part of this team, and then you've also got a couple of guys in the
Do you
minor
think that's
leagues.
enough for the Blues to give up to get Pettersson?
I don't know, because I don't know. Like, it makes Vancouver light on the center side, but it also might be the best return you get in terms of the potential of a number 2 center, and you get a dude who's a 37-goal scorer on the team. So it might be enough for them, but I don't know if they're even in a position to trade him. It's just an interesting one.
Another piece to this, July 1st, he gets a full no move. Yeah.
Way out then.
It's it would be a highly aggressive move.
It is. But it puts you in the contender status for the now and for the next 8. Like, this dude is signed until he's 30.
You're in his prime years too. I mean, there's a lot
Not
to
even.
like here.
I think you're in his early prime years. Like, he's like 28 is typically when you hit the prime seasons, and he's 26, and I think you've got him for $11 million until he's 32, 33. So, boy, it's a fascinating one.
That's a good one. T-Bone, what do you got for us?
Guys, no NL Central team has won a playoff series since 2019 when the Cardinals took down the Braves. Believe it or not, that will change this year.
I believe it.
If they'll take down the Braves?
Well, just somebody.
No, somebody will win a playoff series from the NL Central.
Alex didn't hear the question.
I was still looking at the Pettersson thing.
Yeah, the last time that an NL Central team won a playoff series was against the Braves when the Cardinals did so in 2019. Since then, no other NL Central team has won a playoff series. Will that change this year? I'll believe it. I think somebody will. I could see it being the Cubs. I could see it being the Cardinals. Those are probably the two. The Brewers, I still think, are a little bit of fool's gold right now. But, man, I've been saying that for 5 years. Maybe this is just who they are. So I'll say believe it. I think somebody ends up winning a playoff series this year from the Central.
Yeah, I'll say I'll believe it, because I think if the Cubs hold on to that division, I think they could pull off a win. If the Cardinals get in a wild card, it'll be tough. But, yeah, I'll say believe it.
I think I would believe it as well. I think the Cubs are built right now for October. I do worry a little bit about their starting pitching, but their offense, man, they can slug with the best of them. So I will believe it.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We'll tell you if we are believing it or not here on 101 ESPN. Believe it or not, the best condiment, without a doubt, is ketchup. Not I hate ketchup.
Yeah, believe it, not believe it.
Oh,
Luke has been eating fruit with ketchup lately. He put raspberries into his ketchup. And he thinks that's delightful, and I want to go crawl into it every time I see it.
That would make me throw up.
My least favorite scene in any movie, and you know how much I love this movie, is Big Daddy.
When he does the spit.
When he does the spit with the ketchup, it makes me want to vomit. I actually skip through it now as I get to that scene.
I think either ranch or buffalo wing sauce would be the best condiment.
Spicy mustard.
Buffalo sauce or barbecue would be my top two.
Barbecue's probably third.
I would say either spicy mustard or honey mustard would be my favorite.
Would you consider salsa a condiment?
Yeah.
That would be in my trifecta.
Yeah.
Those three.
It's a good one, too.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not. You guys give us a scenario. We'll tell you if we are believing it here on 101 ESPN. From the 636, guys, believe it or not, CD, Kerry Davis, will eventually have WAR be his number one stat to use to decide whether or not a player is good. Yeah, I'm not. That's not happening. No chance. Zero chance.
Carey's a batting average guy, right?
I don't know what Kerry is statistically.
I heard him talk batting average yesterday.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think Carey's a batting average guy.
Makes sense.
To where he says if you hit the ball, you're a good player, which he's not wrong.
That is true, by the way.
I mean, if you got a 400 batting average, you're a pretty damn good player.
I'll say this on behalf of the nerds. We have gone way too far in the whole, batting average doesn't matter. It does. It doesn't matter as much as we once thought that it mattered, probably, but it absolutely matters. If you get into a situation with the runners in scoring position, yes, you want to put the ball in play and you want to record a hit because that's how you drive in runs. It is a very important thing, but there are other things that also matter. I think we were overlooking previously the importance of a walk to get on for that next guy to get the hit to then send you in.
Sick of the
slug.
Sick of the people that go X-Woe Bacon is how we judge great players. You know?
I like OPS.
The expected hard hit rate. I'm sick of it.
I also think sometimes it gets misrepresented. Not interpreted. That's not on you. This is on everybody else. I think sometimes it gets misrepresented on Gary Davis coming in. He's going to snap me in half. I think sometimes it gets misrepresented.
Kerry, I'm defending you.
On those X-Woe Bacon stuff, Alex.
Yeah.
That is more of a what helps you project for the future. It's less of a how good have you been.
He just
I'm
doesn't
intrigued,
good, man.
So WAR for me, yeah, and we were talking about it a couple of days ago.
What's it good for?
What is it? Good
Absolutely
for?
nothing.
Absolutely
As
nothing.
they
Say it
tell
again
us.
now.
What is it good
It's-
for?
It's pointless. It's a number that I guess indicates how good a player is.
It's a number that the nerds created.
Yeah, like wins above the replacement. Like the replacement is not going to be as good as the starter, correct? So the number's going to be higher.
Sometimes, depending on how good the starter is, the starter could actually be worse than a typical replacement.
The nerds
level
do
player.
this.
Then he's not the replacement. Now he's the starter. So the other guy becomes the replacement. See how
It
that
could
works?
be, but the Royals, Jonathan India, you've been watching him in a couple of series, right?
He hit a home run.
Yeah, he's been horrible this year. Today,
His
excluded.
WAR is low, huh?
Probably
Is
negative.
his replacement better?
They don't have a replacement that is better, but Major League Baseball average players are much better this year than Jonathan
So
India
then they should
has been.
find the replacement, and then India should be the replacement.
That would be the hope. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
for some teams, you don't have that
Nailed
guy,
it.
and then you get stuck.
I'm
Nailed it.
confused.
Kerry.
It's too much.
Just hearing him give that explanation made me want to punch him in
It
the
makes
face.
my head hurt. If you can't explain, so I was taught this.
Well, I
If you're-
can't explain. We haven't done that
If
yet.
you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you don't know it well enough yourself. That's what I was
And
taught.
I've tried to explain things to a 5-year-old. It's impossible.
And it's impossible. So you have to be able to explain it in a way.
See ball, hit ball. Good
That's
player.
all I know. Batting average, I can go with OPS. On base
Try
percentage
working
matters.
with a nerd every day, Kerry.
Well, you know what? I salute you too.
Here's
you,
my point.
BK.
Here's
I
my
don't know.
point on the whole WAR conversation. Who's the better player, Mason Wynn or Manny Machado?
Manny Machado.
Are we talking about long term or are we talking about this year?
See?
We're talking about right now
I'm talking
today.
about in the right
If you
now
walked
and
out
last year.
right now.
Who would you
having
want
a
better season?
Who would you want at the plate with the
Last
bases
year.
loaded and 2 outs?
I mean, I will take long-term Manny Machado, but if we're asking who is having a better season, I think there's a fair
That's
conversation
when
to
we
be
get
had
in the
there.
weeds. Because I think it's just either A or B.
Yeah.
Like
And I
right
think
now,
it's Machado.
if you're taking
know.
one,
And the reason I asked that
Like,
question,
who's a better player, Wilson Contreras or Ivan Herrera?
I would go Wilson Contreras.
Sure. Who's having the better season this year? Ivan Herrera.
I
now
would
we
say
did it,
Herrera.
boys.
I would answer Herrera in that conversation right now.
Is a better player.
Yeah, I think he's got the better bat skills right now. The reason I asked that question about Wynn and Machado, you know who had a higher WAR last year? Mason Wynn.
Because he was a
Manny
better
Machado.
player last year.
No,
He was as
no.
good as a hitter last season. He was as productive as a hitter. And you can go to any of the metrics. Like, you don't
I
have
don't
to just
want
look
to.
at WAR.
I'd prefer not to.
Batting average on base, OPS,
Okay,
all of those. Like, that's what I'm talking about. He was right there with him, close enough offensively, and then defensively, he was a much better player last year than Manny Machado, and played a more premium position. That's really what WAR is. I agree with you guys. I think WAR gets way overstated. I do think it's an easy thing to look at and go to as a point of reference and just say, like, hey, how good are these guys? If you're a 7-win player, that's an unbelievable season. But I think people overdo it where it's like, hey, if one guy's a 7.4 and another guy's like a 7.1, There's not that much of a difference.
I mean, when you're talking apples and oranges, a 7 versus a 2, I'll take the 7 guy any day of the week.
100%.
But on paper, that player's batting average is going to be significantly better than the other one.
And I like the eye test. Just see if a guy who's playing better. He's playing. Give me that guy. I don't give a damn what his WAR is.
Anytime you abbreviate a statistic, it's too nerdy for me.
Thank you.
No, batting averages.
No, it's not abbreviated.
Point
No, it's that shortened. Wobacon WAR wins above replacement.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's too much.
What's your go-to stat other than batting average?
I like batting average. I like OPS. I like to and I'm simple, man. Stalter gets on me. He wants to give me the FIP, the fielding independent percentage.
I hate when this guy brings up FIP.
I don't care about that. No, I do.
But
I enjoy
that's
defense.
what WAR includes that you're not getting with those numbers.
Yeah,
See, and I think it overrates. Overrates. I think it gives too much value.
Sure,
to
that's
defense.
fine.
I think my eyes
you can
tell
look at
me
that calculated in there as well.
if a guy catches the ball or if he doesn't.
Nerd.
I
I
am.
think my eyes tell me
calculate that.
he moves slower than this guy over here, and he should play there, and the other guy shouldn't. I
Totally
the
fair.
old gut and eye check. That's all I need.
Yes.
I don't need much. I got
Can
two
you-
eyes for
But
a
it's the
reason.
same
Can you
thing.
fill in for him?
Yeah, let me know.
I'm tired
Let me know
of
what you
hearing.
need.
I'm tired of hearing all
I'm
these
here, man.
nerdy
Well,
You
numbers.
could really calculate all of those into if you need to.
No, what I'm saying
He's
is
talking about expected batting average earlier. Who
Oh,
cares?
I definitely don't like expected goals or expected batting average. I could not care less about those.
Now we're entering Chris Kerber territory.
Anything
He
you
hates
expect
expected
to
goals.
happen, just show me what happened. I don't care about what
fair
you're
enough.
talking
The
about.
idea behind those is just what could potentially happen in the future if you continue playing that way. But
BK,
fair enough.
if you walk across Olive, you could get hit by a bus. It's not likely. I don't know. Anything can happen.
That's basically expected batting
That's
average.
ridiculous, man.
If I
Look
walk
both
across-
ways. I know the damn bus ain't gonna hit me.
But the idea is, if I walk across that street right now, right, and I don't get hit, that does not mean the next time that I walk
Oh,
across
that
that
is
street, I'm
awful.
also not gonna get hit.
That is a terrible way of going about things, in my opinion. But hey,
Hey, I got one before we wrap it up. Believe it or not, when Kerry walked in here, you were a little nervous.
No, because I know
I
Carrie's
love
a
you
big
guys.
teddy
I'm
bear.
not any. I don't.
I shifted a little bit. I'm like, oh, jeez, Kerry's going to break me. But then I was like, oh, no, he's here to talk war. And CD and I are on the same page.
Condiment?
Yeah, it goes on a taco.
Where would you put ketchup in terms of power rankings?
That would be number one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, ketchup.
We both
Wow,
said
you
ketchup's
really
trash.
see the world differently.
I was gonna ketchup. No, ketchup is. I mean, it goes on a multitude of things. Ketchup
like
is number
ketchup.
one. You got people that put ketchup on a lot of different
See,
things.
ranch goes on everything.
This kid's
Now, that's
putting it on
terrible.
raspberry.
That's how old are you?
Ranch, about
Alex, how old are
34,
you?
34 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a hot sauce guy.
Ranch and
basically
buffalo
everything.
sauce go on
Hot
everything.
sauce is fine. I don't like spicy food. but-
Barbecue goes on there as well.
Barbecue is
All of
good.
these are above
I'm a
ketchup.
mustard guy.
No, ketchup is number one.
I
It-
put
it is
mustard on
number
a hot
one.
dog before ketchup.
Stalter just walked by. I assumed he was
Yeah.
going to walk in now because he's nervous about our ketchup.
There's too much going on.
All right, CD coming up in 20 minutes. Coming up next, are fans excited about the challenge system coming to Major League Baseball? We'll see what CD has to say about this here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendricks here, the Sports Center update brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals in game one of their doubleheader right now as they're taking on the Kansas City Royals. They're in the bottom of the fourth inning as they trail 2-0. Miles Michaelis getting the start in game one. Game two tonight will be at 6:45, and Matthew Liberatore will get the start for the Cardinals. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
We're going to have to go real quick here. We did like 20 minutes because we basically did a double segment with Kerry Davis talking about the value or the lack of value in wins above replacement. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. That is all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
Alex, it was revealed yesterday over at The Athletic that Major League Baseball is expected to implement the challenge system next year. It's not a huge shock, but now it sounds like the commissioner has the necessary votes to be able to push this thing through. That was really the question all along. Are you excited about this? Do you think fans should be excited about the challenge system coming aboard?
I think I'm excited about it. I'm still just unknown about it. Like, I don't know. I think new things are always kind of scare people. And so you're going to get the traditionalists that are like, no way, don't bring this in. But I don't know. I think it brings a different element to the game. And I think we saw it in spring training to where I started to get a little bit more excited about it, just how quick the reaction was and how the batter was able to challenge it. And you got an instant answer.
That's my thing. I hate review systems that take forever. Hockey has this as a problem. Basketball is the worst with this. The NFL sometimes runs into it as well. The value of this is it's quick. Everybody sees it together. There's no guesswork. It's just it comes up on the Jumbotron. Boom, that was a strike. It was called a ball. Let's go ahead.
Yeah.
And I think that's great for baseball. I also think there will be some huge moments where you see something like this and it becomes like a celebration among the fans or a massive groan among the fans. So I think it's good. I like it. I'm excited about it. I don't think it's going to change a ton. It won't change your typical like pitch-to-pitch experience. That was always my concern. I don't think you should get rid of the umpires. I do think that's a part of the game. I do like the idea, though, that I don't know what the exact number is going to be for the challenges, maybe 2, 3, whatever it is over the course of the game. I like that. I think that is a smart way to go about this. You can challenge a few calls over the course of a full game, and you go about it that way. It's very rare that you see more than like 5 or 7 calls in any individual game that were just egregiously bad. So I think this is smart.
Yeah, I really like it, and I've seen it in person before at a AAA game, and it doesn't slow down the game. And that's my biggest thing is when they were talking about, I remember listening to Theo Epstein on a podcast talking about, hey, if we did a full automated strike zone, it actually made the games go longer because that actually calls it 100% correct. So those borderline calls that are 50-50, it was always getting it right if it was a ball, and it led to more walks, and that is not what baseball needs. So I like it. I agree with what you said, though, about it can get the crowd involved because I love how you get to see it come in, right? And you get to see it, especially the ones where you had to like zoom in to see if it is a ball or a strike. It'll play a lot like it does in tennis when they use that system as well, and I think that works out great.
Just got a text from my wife. The Royals pitcher's a smoke show today. So that's where things are at for me. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. BK and Ferrario Rewind coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you guys missed any of today's show, like I said, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com. The free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
Been a weird show. I've personally enjoyed it. A lot of
weird
life conversations. If you want to hear about my fear of death, you can do that. That was during the show today. If you want to hear about Pink Pony Club, you can do that as well. That was during the show today. Anything else that we got into that
Your last little snippet that you threw to before break was, I think, interesting, but we'll get to that, I guess, on another day.
My wife thinks that the pitcher today for the Royals is a, quote, smoke show, end quote. All of that, and you can also hear our thoughts on Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. We talked about Ollie being in a no-win position the other day, Michael McGreevy's plan, what he's going to be on this roster after taking that spot start with him, and how the Blues stack up against the other top 4 teams in the NHL right now. All of that on the podcast page after the show. We'll also be recording a brand spanking new Redbird report after the show today. You'll be able to see that at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL, and you should do that because it's in the brand new podcast studio.
But instead of doing that, you should head over to YouTube and check out the most recent episode, brand spanking new, of the Last Minute Blues podcast, because we talk about how they should go to the trade market rather than the free agent market for a centerman, and we had thoughts on Pete DeBoer.
And you talked about how the Kachucks have punchable faces. So all of that is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. All right. Cardinals are down 2-0 right now. It is the top of the 5th inning. It's not been a great game for Miles Michaelis, but it's one of those games where, like, you look at the bottom line results and you're like, 2 runs, probably going to get through 5 or 6 innings. Not so bad. If he's able to get out of this jam that he's in right now with the runner on second base and only 1 out.
That's always good.
The Cardinals have a lot of these pitchers that you watch them and you feel like it's just dread at all times because they're constantly working through traffic, and then you get to the end of the game, 6 innings, 3 earned runs allowed. That's a quality start. So that's how it is right now for the Cardinals. The problem for them is they can't get anything going offensively again. My big question today against this Cameron cat was, can you get to him? Can you find a way to get the bats going? And Alex, this is now back-to-back opportunities against him where they haven't been able to.
Yeah, and it's not even they can't get the bats going. They can't get the bats going in terms of ideal situations. 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. The best one they had was a runner at first and second with nobody out. They had a strikeout, ground out, fly out. Like, that's not the offense that we saw in the previous month. And if it continues, it does get a little concerning because we've had a lot of these games with the exception of that first one against Kansas City where they just went off and the pitching couldn't hold on. Now you're starting to talk about offense not coming through with big moments. Like every single time they stepped to the plate in the past 2 months, you knew they were going to come through with it.
Yeah, offensively, they are really going into a rut, and it feels a little bit like everybody at once because you're really starting to see wind cool off a little bit, not too much.
Sure.
Herrera's the one that's really going through it right now on top of Contreras. And Donovan is playing. He's the one guy right now that's still hitting for them. They just don't have, when you're an offense that relies on, hey, we need really 6 guys to be going, 4, I would say 4 guys going at the same time, and it's not going to be slug, baby, slug. It's going to be single. We're going to be smart on the bases. You can't have these kind of slumps, right? Sometimes a slumping offense can get away with it because you got a home run power hitter that might be able to put up a crooked number. They don't have that guy to carry them through these kind of slumps. So when they struggle, it looks about what it's looked like today.
The other thing with it is when you're going up against a lefty starter, I think you see the struggles of the Cardinals lineup. I think that's really where it comes through when you don't have Herrera hitting the way that he was. Because, I mean, think about the guys that you have been able to count on consistently. It's Nootbaar, it's Donovan, it's Alec Burleson lately. And Burleson is not very good against left-handed pitchers. And the other guys, while fine against them, are not as good against lefties as they typically are against the right-handed options that are available for them. So you need to get more from Mason Wynn, Wilson Contreras, Ivan Herrera, and maybe most notably, you have to get more from Nolan Arenado.
Yeah.
He has gone through a huge slump lately, so much so that his on-base percentage is now below 300 and his slugging percentage is now below 375. We're not talking about it a lot because nobody expected him to come into the season and have this like massive year. I'm not expecting a massive year. It's got to be better than this, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a black hole in your lineup right now, which, I mean, we talked a lot about those areas that could be black holes in the lineup of Mason Wynn and Victor Scott, and none of these guys are it for the Cardinals. Even Pedro Pajes has been good at the plate or at the when he's batting, but Nolan Arenado, it's gone past from just not being good to like, man, I don't expect anything out of you there. And I mean, the defense has been great, which has been good, but I don't know how you can survive with a guy that's not even making contact for you.
Nolan Arenado has the same OPS on the season as Victor Scott.
Oh.
Yeah.
Victor Scott's been great.
Victor Scott started out great.
Yeah.
His
He's really
offense has really, really started to level off, and it has not looked the same lately for him offensively, and it has not looked the same lately for Nolan Arenado either. He's batting .225. I mean,
and then that's where you go to your bench, and you don't have depth on your bench to come through in big moments for you. So now you start to see the real breaking points of this Cardinals team.
We're going to talk a little bit about that depth today on the Redbird Report. So if you want more on that, you want to hear more about the Cardinals, we'll be talking about that at length today on the Redbird Report. It'll probably be posted sometime around like 4 or 5 o'clock over on YouTube at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. The Fast Lane has you guys taken care of from 2 to 6. Alex is out tomorrow. He's got his annual golf trip this weekend, so it'll be me and T-Bone tomorrow for you guys. We'll talk to you guys then at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.